got the rules.
All right, thank you, Frank. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for our board meeting. The time is now 6:00 p.m. and we are going to call this meeting to order. Trustee Gross, roll call, please.
VP Bowman.
Present.
Trustee Dooley.
Present.
I'm present. President Hannah.
Present.
Trustee Miller.
Present.
And Treasurer Terry.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to amend the agenda to add under item information from the superintendent and administration for discussion and action, the Pontiac School District, Oakland County project presentation?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Treasurer Terry, supported by VP Bowman, to amend the agenda to add under information from the superintendent and administration for discussion and action, the Pontiac School District, Oakland County project presentation. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Dooley.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. President Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Treasurer Terry.
Yes.
And VP Bowman.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that passed 6-0.
Thank you. If I can get a motion to accept the amended agenda.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by VP Bowman, supported by Treasurer Terry, to accept the amended agenda. Any questions? Roll call.
Trustee Dooley.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. President Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Treasurer Terry.
Yes.
VP Bowman.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that passed 6-0.
Thank you. Any awards and recognitions? I have none at this time. I would like to greet any elected officials. I see we have State Representative Brenda Carter here. I don't see any other. State Representative Carter, you want to give comments? Okay.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent,
Good
my
evening.
colleagues out here in the audience. Good to be back. I am bringing you a snapshot of what we're going through in Lansing and Washington. I know there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen, and there's a lot of uncertainty in Lansing as well. I can't tell you what's going on in Washington, but I put together this PowerPoint presentation and I gave you guys a summary of what I'm going to present. And occasionally I will have my chief of staff, who's also my policy director, to come up if I get stuck. Okay, next slide. This presentation is a snapshot, as I said. It talks about the current funding that the school district is getting. It's also going to talk about what happens to at-risk funding. It's going to talk about the impact on teachers, staff, busing, families, etc. And my personal goal, and I've been working on this for a while with not only the board president and the superintendent, but I've been working with it with the PEA as well. The PEA has been kept informed of these changes. I'm not here to get into what happens in local government because I can't, but what I can do is tell you what's going on in Lansing. And this is what this presentation is about. Next slide. The section you're going to see next is going to talk about current budget items, universal school meals, mental health, school safety, early literacy, CTE programs, Yay First Robotics, and MISPERS. Next slide. Okay. Currently, and Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, these are categoricals that we are looking at to lose or we have in place.
They are in place but slated to go away.
Okay, I want you.
Passes if the House votes.
Okay, so what Jonathan clarified, that these are in place, but they're slated to go away if the House budget passes in the law. Okay, and the 186,068 that is currently in place would go away. And what my office is doing is working with the school board, the school president, the PEA, and various other entities in this district to make sure that I keep you on point and up to date as these changes occur. Next slide. Okay, out-of-district formula. Pontiac School District is an out-of-district formula school. And this is something that's slated to go away, the $588,000, if the budget passes as is. This is the omnibus budget. Those of you guys who are on my Facebook page, I talk about it all the time. This is what you could lose if it goes in place. We're pushing in Lansing, my colleagues on my side of the aisle is pushing real hard, and in the Senate. You need to know that as well, because the Senate is our wall. Okay, right now the Senate is pushing back on this madness to make sure we keep these fundings in place. Next slide. Mental health services. I had the opportunity to visit the school-based clinic over there at the high school and at the middle school. I saw firsthand what these services provide for our community. And being a former school board member for 8 years, I know some of the challenges we face in our community. This is funding that we cannot afford to lose. It's $429,632. So what I've been doing is going around and talking to teachers, talking to school-based honor community health, going out in the community. I was over at Carriage Circle talking to people about this to see how this would impact them if we lost this funding. Next slide. Early literacy program, $73,000. That's another pot of money that could be lost. Okay. And I'm gonna make sure that the superintendent and the board president and the Board of Education get a copy of this presentation so they can keep and provide to you if they so choose. Hopefully they do. Next one. CTE programs, and this is one that I've taken on myself because I realized that, you know, even though we've been working with Oak Tech and we've been working with various initiatives in our city, we still need to provide something that our kids can develop their soft skills to get into skilled trades. So what we did about 3 months ago is we created a pre-apprenticeship program called Pathways to Progress, Access for All. And what we're doing is going to be working with not only the Pontiac School District, but the Waterford School District as well, because both of those school districts are in my district. And they, believe it or not, when I learned that 60% of our Waterford students are free and reduced lunch, hello? So they're gonna get hit too, and they're worried, okay? So this is one of the initiatives that's coming out of my office to help offset some of the unemployment that we have in our city. And just to digress just a little bit, one of the things that's gonna, where people are gonna lose their health insurance, possibly their SNAP, is if they don't comply with the new work requirements that require you to either work 20 hours a week or volunteer 20 hours a week, or you'll lose your health care. Boy, they did a good job with this one. Next slide. Okay, FIRST Robotics, this would hurt me because this is a program that I was personally involved with. And when we won the 2003 International Championships, I know what our kids could do if they are given the opportunity and they were given the resources to do it. So instead of cutting resources from districts like ours, they should be providing more. Unfortunately, if the budget passed as is, that's gone too. Next. MISPERS, everybody knows about MISPERS, right? We're yes. So what we're doing is just working to make sure that we maintain the money that's allocated to MISPERS. But unfortunately, once again, if the budget passes out of the House of Representatives in its current state, that will be gone too. I hope you guys are hearing me. Okay, next slide. So here's a high level overview of what's happening. Okay, overall, full compliance, and this is where I'm gonna have my chief of staff come up, because when he started telling me what would make you fall out of compliance, I was like, whoa. So if a district, any district in Michigan is fully compliant, this is the amount of money that Pontiac School District will get. Jonathan, if you come up and explain some of the things about the compliance, listen very carefully.
I can definitely do an overview and would be happy to follow up with the full list, because it's a little complex in the way this budget was written and the different pitfalls that are involved. So of course, everyone's familiar with the foundation allowance. There's ways to lose up to 20% of your foundation allowance. And then in addition to the foundation allowance, this budget created a new concept, which is a per pupil payment that is separate from your foundation allowance. There is a way to lose the entirety of your per pupil payment. And then there is a third way that would mean you just lose all funding in its entirety. And it ranges from things like if you allowed a transgender student to participate in sports, if you offered a non-gender specific restroom that had more than one stall in it. That's another one that I found interesting. There's all sorts of little pitfalls throughout the budget. I'd be happy to follow up with you on the full list there. But that's the central concern, is that there's little way, it sounds on the overall, you're looking at 5.5 mil. That would be over last year. So it sounds fine. But when you really look into it, you're losing your categoricals with the exception of special ed. And then there's a ton of pitfalls that would just take anywhere from a small amount of the money away to literally every dollar you receive in like its entirety, including like grant funding from the department. That's the way it was worded in the budget. So I'd be happy to follow up with you on the particulars there, though.
One of the things I found particularly interesting, and Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you have a certain dye in your food, what you serve your children, you can lose your funding. So how do we know what's in the food? Okay, but if they come in here and do an inspection, they see whatever goes in food and they don't like it, they can nix your funding. So keep in mind, even though you're getting this pot of money that seems extremely generous, where they're striking you at is any way you fall out of line. I think it was one that if you incentivize your kids to come to school, I know we used to have a program, for Count Day. We used to have one with the guy that owned the car. Okay, you can lose your funding. Okay, okay. Next slide. Okay. Federal cut downs, okay. Another thing, this is a big one. Jonathan, you may want to talk about how they're not gonna, this is what the one big beautiful bill. They no longer are gonna fund immigrants. So I know we have a large Latinx population, don't we?
Yeah.
Hello. So, now that's coming from the feds, that HR 1 to talk about. So some of these things will cross over from what's going on in Lansing with the omnibus budget and what's going on in Washington, which is the same animal on a different level. So what we're doing, once again, is coming in and talking to our community, talking to our schools and telling them, you got to prepare for this. If you have that large Latinx population, I know you do, maybe you could work with Central Multicultural La Familia or some of these other organizations. I feel I need to do a presentation to them so they can fully understand what's truly coming down from Washington. Next slide. My grandkids are Latinx. Anyway, state shutdown would halt payments. If the state shuts down October 1st, because that's the deadline, September 30th is the deadline, October 1st, if it shuts down, this is what can happen to schools. Schools unable to meet payroll or continue normal operations. Districts may be forced to take high interest loans. Programs like arts, athletics, and bus routes face cuts. Staff layoff, increase class sizes, and disrupt learning. That's if the shutdown occurs. We're working once again with school districts to help keep things on track. I'm up in Lansing looking to see what alternative funding we have. Some of the things that the other side of the aisle recommended is that they would hold school districts exempt if and only if they give up all their categoricals. Can we give up our categoricals? No, we can't. We have too many programs that assist our babies. Next slide. Okay, so we just talked about all of that right there. So that's just putting it all into one basket to let you know what the pitfalls are if the budget passes or we go into a if the budget doesn't pass and we go into a shutdown. Next slide. Okay, this says we just talked about it, funding can be denied if certain food dyes are used, students fail to complete the nutrition education benefits package, financial incentives are provided to complete FAFSA, okay? Incentives are driven for students to attend day count, we talked about that. District surveys students and fail to make public questions and results. Parent approval required. Okay, next, y'all seeing what this is doing? Okay. Okay, you can lose funding if you include race or gender stereotyping. Funds are used for DEI programs. Transgender girls are allowed to play in girls' sports or use girls' bathrooms. School provides multi-stall unisex bathrooms. So if you get this one package of money, that is more than what you're getting right now, okay? But you hit any of those bullets that we talked about, you can lose some or all of your funding. At 20% of the foundation allowance. Next slide. Teachers, risk of layoffs or reduced hours due to loss of categorical funding, increased class size and fewer resources to support student learning. Paraprofessionals, potential cuts to paraprofessional positions that support special education and literacy programs, greater workloads for remaining staffing, hiring freezes or difficulty filling critical roles such as mental health providers and resources. Okay, pressure on district to meet new staffing mandates with fewer funds. Next slide. Busing, possible route reductions and longer travel times for students, increased costs if emergency loans are required to maintain services. For our families, loss of universal, and that's the one that hurts the most, because sometimes that might be the only meal they get. I had to pause on that one. That one hurts. This is what keeps me up at night. Uncertainty about school closures and shortened schedules during funding gaps, reduced access to after-school programs and support services. We don't have any community centers in Pontiac right now. So let's get rid of the after-school programs for our babies. That's really smart. Next one. So what I'm trying to get everybody to do is not to go in shock, because HR 1 is here. It's not coming, it's here. It's the law. It was passed July 4th, 2025. So what they're doing in Washington is happening right now. Now, what we haven't resolved is what's going on in Lansing. And that's going to keep the legislators, including myself, up there on call all night trying to get this budget passed. And we're going to try to get it passed with as little catastrophic or punitive results as we can. But this is what the other side of the aisle is proposing. This is what they want to do. They want to gut public education. What's new? We know that. We've been fighting that for a long time. But now with the pen in their hands, that's what they're trying to do. So what I'm asking the school district to do is to prepare the school district. Prepare them. Thank you for inviting us here tonight, so we can give you the truth, the unbiased truth. And anytime that anything changes in Lansing, I will let you know. I not only let the superintendent know, I let the board president know, she can communicate to the board, and I let the president of the PEA know. That's right. Because this is Pontiac School District. And we all have to stick together to get through this one, okay? So prepare financially, identify essential expenses and conserve cash to cover payroll and basic operations. The cavalry is not going to come if the government shuts down, okay? We're on our own. Communicate early, inform staff, families, and the community about potential service disruptions, because once again, we're doing everything we can up in Lansing to avoid this shutdown. Okay, but in the event that we are not successful, we need to communicate this and prepare, not shock and all, don't get everybody all scared, but prepare everybody. Develop contingency plans. Plan for possible school closures, transportation cuts, and reduced hours. Seek short-term solutions. Explore temporary borrowing options while monitoring long-term impacts. You don't have to worry about engaging your legislator, okay? After 8 years of being on the school board, I'm always going to be engaged, okay? So, but I'm going to keep you informed. I don't know if I put that one thing that I talked about when I was over at the senior place of Oakland Woods, but I told them, and this is what I need to tell you guys too. Please listen to this. Start stocking up some non-perishable foods now. Okay? Because if we go into this 1-2 punch, I call it, Lansing, Washington shutdown, because Washington has the same mandate. They have to have a budget done by September 30th. If they don't, the programs that's going to be cut is unbelievable. Start putting food away now. If you know families that are hungry, work in the community with a Dave Coleman or Gleaners or somebody, so we could have some reserve food for people, because if you got people hungry now, imagine what it's gonna be when these cuts come in, okay? So please, I know we got babies, we gotta take care of our babies. Is there anything else, or and I think that's it. Okay, I don't know, Superintendent, Board President, do you want to open it up for any type of questioning? Jonathan, you can join me so you can help me answer questions.
Yes. Trustee Gross?
Appreciate you. Appreciate you, State Rep.
Thank you.
And you have been extremely informative to us here as well on social media. I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Because we only know what we see on TV. You're there.
Mhm.
Now you can say to me, Trustee Gross, I don't want to discuss that, but I want your personal feelings. You said there was a wall, that the Senate was actually a wall for you. Is that because the Senate is majority Democrats?
That's
And the
exactly,
House is majority Republican?
that's exactly correct.
And the House already approved a budget, but it has not been passed through the Senate, correct?
That's correct.
Now, my question to you, being there, and I want you to you've always been honest.
Mhm.
What is your actual feelings about the deadline? If you want to, you can. If you don't want to say anything, I don't want you to put fear. I'm not trying to do
It's
that.
not fear, it's pain. Okay, it's
Yes,
a difference, it's pain.
you're there.
Because I don't understand how people could do this, okay? My actual feelings are, will we have a resolution on this budget by October 1st? I'm not optimistic. It's a process that goes on in Lansing where the House pass a budget, the Senate pass a budget, the two leaders of both chambers get together in what they call a conference, and they go back and forth to decide what they can give and take from each budget and then pass it forward. To my knowledge, we have not gone to conference. Is that correct, John? That's unheard of.
Wow.
So when I say not fear, I say pain, because already we have a lot of people in this community that's hungry, a lot of people in this community that's sick, a lot of people in this community that's homeless. We don't need this.
Thank you for that. And my last question is, and you gave us a plan on what we should do, but I'm asking you, what is your feeling that we should do from day one if the government shuts down? Besides, go by that plan, or?
Make sure that you, if the government shuts down on either level, Lansing or
Or federal,
Washington,
yes.
communicate that to your community. You're
Okay.
doing it now, because if I remember correctly, this is live streamed.
Yeah.
So the community is hearing me now, and they know me long enough to know that I wouldn't get up and on this microphone with tears in my eyes unless I see something really, really frightening that's about to happen. Communicate. If you have ways, and identify the people, your children, your families in your district that really need help. You know who they are. You don't have to go the extra work. We know who's in our community needs help. And then just be prepared to help them and work as a team. Okay, that's one thing that we need to do is, and if you ever need my office down here, former City Councilman Randy Carter, we're here to help, and we'll put our boots on the ground to help you.
And I'm glad you're saying this because you said something extremely important that with this, we're all one team. We have to be on one team because we can't give what we don't have. And what we have to give to the children. And I need people to understand that. I mean, I'm not trying to sit at this table to negotiate, but people need to understand these are dire straits now. Things can be totally different within the next week and a half.
8 days.
8 days. People need to understand that. This is not a fight against each other.
Please listen to what he's saying, because I said the same thing to Waterford. I said the same thing
Thank
to
you.
the seniors. You know, now we have to be a team to get through this. Do I think we're gonna have a shutdown? I'm pretty sure we will.
Okay.
Okay,
I just need to hear.
prepare.
I just need the community to hear that.
Trustee Dooley.
Thank you, Representative Carter, by presenting this information. It certainly supports my move that it's imperative for us to have an investigative forensic audit. Why do we need an audit? Based on what you just said, we need to prepare financially. How can we not prepare? How can we prepare if we don't have an audit to know what we already have? So I appreciate you because you help validate the point that I'm trying to drive home to this board, that it's imperative that we have an investigative forensic audit. So the suggested cuts that may come down the pipe, we'll be prepared for them. We'll be able to have a plan in place and not be reactive, but proactive to the situation if we know where we stand financially. It would also support the teachers and the bus drivers and everything else that we need, but we must have a bottom line number of the finances that we have in this district. Thank you.
Any other questions, trustees? State Representative, thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to address the school district, and at any time, like I said, there's going to be any changes that happen in Lansing particularly. I'm on my way to Lansing tomorrow, or in Washington if we get it from Congresswoman Stevens or Senator Slotkin, and I will convey that information to you. Thank you for this
Thank you.
opportunity.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is consent agenda items. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Treasurer Terry and supported by Trustee Gross to accept the consent agenda items. Any questions? Roll call, please.
I'm voting yes. President Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Treasurer Terry.
Yes.
VP Bowman.
Yes.
And Trustee Dooley.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that passed 6-0.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is information from the Superintendent and Administration. Dr. Leverett.
Thank you, Dr. Hannah. Trustees, good evening, everyone. At this time, we'll have a SEC presentation. Jason Russell, SEC founder and president, through grants, Pontiac School District has partnered with Jason Russell and team from SEC, which allows our district to receive a comprehensive on-site and event security assessment at no cost. These assessments are designed to identify potential gaps and vulnerabilities across school buildings and athletic facilities, helping us create a safer environment for students, staff, and the community. Secure Environmental Consultants has worked with districts across Michigan in the delivery of practical, actionable assessments that lead to stronger safety practices.
Point of clarity, can you restate who this gentleman is representing?
Secure Environmental Consultants, SEC.
Good evening. Thank you for Dr. Leverett, and thank you to the board for having us. Excited to talk to you about the process that Pontiac Schools has gone through. As Dr. Leverett pointed out, a few years ago, the state of Michigan passed some funding. It was about 2 years ago, passed some funding to allow for every public school in the state of Michigan to have comprehensive safety and security assessments completed. You all took advantage of that grant, and we completed your assessments over the summer, or actually this fall, worked on assessments for the district. So next slide. Just quick history on the company. I started this company after a career in the U.S. Secret Service. We work with about 75% of the public school districts in Michigan, as well as schools across the U.S. We have a professional group of consultants that are trained in school safety and security assessments. So we do comprehensive assessments, physical security, policy, procedure, and we had a really excellent consultant do the assessments here in Pontiac. Go ahead to the next slide. So our assessments are really designed to look at everything within a district that touches safety and security. So we're not just looking at the locks and the cameras. We're actually watching the schools as they operate, watching, the entries, watching arrivals, departures. We are looking at the physical security, but we're also looking at processes that relate to security. So that might include how your entries operate. We're looking at any emergency procedures that you have in place. We're watching your security personnel work. We're looking at equipment. And we're also speaking with a lot of people. So the purpose of these assessments is to really get a good picture of what the safety and security of the district looks like in a comprehensive picture, not just the physical security, but all the things that kind of support safety and security. So as our assessors, we actually had just one person work in the district. As they're going through the district, they're meeting with administrators, they're meeting with staff, they're asking a lot of questions about safety and security, and using our assessment process to really develop hopefully some actionable recommendations. What we're trying to do with an assessment isn't to just give you a list of things to do. We're trying to learn what's possible within the district. So we try to not make recommendations that are not going to be possible. And some of the things that cause a recommendation to not be possible are the very real budget issues that you deal with in a school district. As the representative pointed out, there's a significant amount of safety and security funding that is kind of up in the air. So we try to really make sure that the recommendations that we make will fit within the possibilities, not only from a budget perspective, but also from an operations and a cultural perspective. We want to make sure that our recommendations are respectful of all the different things that you're trying to be here in Pontiac and educating students and not just putting a bunch of physical security stuff in place. So that's kind of what the process looks like. The assessor will spend about a half day at each school. So they're meeting, as I said, with principal, they're meeting with administrators and staff and just asking a ton of questions. And then they're observing, and we're using our assessment tool to create a report that we then provide to the district. The district has been provided with the report. I'm going to discuss some kind of high-level findings. We never want to share the complete report, obviously in an open setting. We never want to share any potential weaknesses that you might have, but we're going to talk about some kind of larger, bigger picture things. You want to go ahead and change the slides. Some of the things that we're looking at, though, obviously, is the physical security. So that's all the stuff that's obvious, right? The locks, the whatever, all the different kinds of things you think about, cameras, things like that. We're also looking at communication capability, not only within the schools, but also, external communication capability. If you had an emergency, what would that look like? We spend a lot of time looking at policy and procedure. So what do your emergency procedures look like? What are your policies related to, controlling your entry? What are your training policies and procedures? We're looking at equipment and technology. So emergency supplies, cameras, all those types of things. Not only do you have them, but how do they function and are they being used properly? One of the issues we often see with schools is they have the right stuff. They're just not using it. They're not leveraging it to the maximum. And then we look at training. So what training is being provided, specifically training as it relates to safety and security. So that could be anything from CPR, first aid, to actually emergency response training for staff. And we take that even to other elements of the district. So we look at bus drivers and we look at kind of really trying to get that really broad picture of the district as a whole to see kind of what training is available. And then obviously as we're doing these assessments, we're really trying to pick out big picture things. So what I call strategic safety. So strategic safety is policies, procedures, planning, right? And then we're also looking at tactical safety. So tactical safety is things like door number 3 was, the lock was broken, or there was a rock sitting outside that we would want to move so somebody couldn't break it. So we're looking at kind of both levels of safety, strategic and then tactical, and really trying to provide recommendations. So the report is broken up into what we call common findings. So those would be things that we might have seen across the district, maybe not necessarily at every school, but they were more strategic findings, right? Emergency procedures that were maybe not clear or unavailable. Those might be things related to how security operated within the district and our observations of how your safety and security personnel were operating, bigger picture things. And then we also provide specific findings for each school when they exist. Those tend to be more tactical. Door number 3 didn't have a number, or, the kind of more detailed things. So I'm going to go ahead to the next slide. So just some of the highlights, we try to find positives and, and not just look at the bad things. We did find a really good engagement of key leadership. Dr. Leverett reached out to us proactively about these assessments, and we really engaged throughout the process, as were the administrators within the individual schools, engaged with making sure that we got this done. Like I said, the state of Michigan provided for these, so there was zero out of pocket for the district for these assessments. And it also allowed for assessments of athletic events, which I think is a kind of a missing piece. Football games and sporting events, to make sure that there's some kind of safety and security assessment of those. We did those as well. And really, just making sure that there was a level of compliance. So some schools had really good established kind of procedures and protocols. We saw some missing areas. We're going to some areas for improvement. One area, I think this is something that we see in a lot of districts, especially that have the security personnel, is just really professionalizing school security. Making sure that they're trained on things that are specific to schools. Examples of that may be how to deal with special needs students, de-escalation strategies, CPI, crisis prevention intervention, behavioral threat assessment. So not only are they able to check doors and all the things that we want them to do from a tactical perspective, but are they also trained on relationship building and some of the more school specific elements of security. One of the big ones is that behavioral threat assessment. Are we looking for kids? Are we engaging kids in creating that safe school climate? So we did recognize, I think, that there's some opportunities for the district to really focus on some professionalization of that, building security personnel and really focusing them on elements that impact school safety. Also, some emergency operations plans. The state of Michigan has passed a piece of legislation that actually you have another year till it goes into effect, but it mandates specific terminology in the school emergency plans. It's called the standard response protocols. So you'll have until essentially a year from now to be in compliance with that. But what's important about that is not only developing that plan, but also how do we train that plan? An emergency plan that's just a book that sits on a shelf, isn't really doing anybody any good if people don't know how to actually respond. So we saw some opportunities not only to update that plan, but to also consider some ways to train staff on what those protocols are, what that protocol means for them as a teacher or as a bus driver, whatever it might be. And then also with leadership to conduct what we call tabletop exercises, which are a little bit more in-depth, training that really allow you to test your emergency plans. So in those tabletop exercises, we ask local law enforcement, we ask emergency responders to come in and actually participate with the school, kind of run through a scenario to see how that emergency would play out in this real environment. Planning, training for all staff. I think it's important that when I have kids that attend public schools, I want anybody who might have responsibility for my kids, I want them trained on how to respond to an emergency. And that would include a maintenance person, that would include a lunch, person, that would include a bus driver. So, and not to mention their teachers, right? So making sure that everybody's trained on that. And also some after school and athletic event training. And a lot of these trainings are provided free. That's okay. A lot of these trainings are provided free. For instance, the athletic training, My company was contracted by MHSAA to develop an athletic volunteer training and an athletic director training, and both those are available free, as are the event assessments. So you can go ahead to the next slide. So, some just best practices in physical security, some of the things that we look at, obviously access control, how are people allowed in, how our alert systems work. So if there's an emergency, how do we know that there's an emergency? What does that look like? Cameras, locks. I mentioned the standard language protocols. There's some really good free resources on that the districts can take advantage of to improve their emergency procedures. Command and control is who's in charge in an emergency, right? Something bad happens, who's in charge? And then how do we communicate? We're a big proponent of broad form training. So one of the things that we've seen in the last probably 10 years in schools is a big focus on a single emergency. So most of the training, if you get any professional development time for safety and security, it's very much focused on kind of the worst situation, an active shooter situation, as opposed to you probably face an emergency in your schools every week that isn't that emergency. So a more broad form training that would include that, but also include other things. We mentioned tabletop exercises, and we really think that de-escalation strategies training is a really excellent training for, quite frankly, any human being. As we see, we don't always communicate well with people, and that can often lead to issues. So de-escalation strategies training is another one we recommended. I do think that in a school district of this size, you need somebody that owns safety and security as their primary job. It shouldn't be a side job, in my opinion. And I think a director of safety and security, I know the representative talked about Waterford. We do directors of safety and security. We just put a director of safety and security in Waterford that owns safety and security in that district. So I think it's an important piece, making sure that your security staff are getting training. Skills are perishable. So if you're not focusing on training, you're not focused on things that impact school safety, a lot of times, people get complacent and those things can happen. So, and then obviously focusing on mental health professionals. I was appointed by Governor Whitmer to the School Safety and Mental Health Commission. And that's one of the main focuses we've had there is to try to really develop a pipeline for school mental health professionals, because we see that you can make a lot more money in private practice than you can in a school as a mental health professional. So we really focused on programs, tuition reimbursement programs and incentivizing programs to get mental health professionals in the schools to make sure that kids have those important elements. And another reason that truthfully, I was appreciative of the budget presentation, because all the things that the representative said are extremely true. Losing some of those individual pieces of funding can be hugely impactful on schools. We're already way off on our ratios for mental health professionals per student in the state of Michigan. We're not doing very well. Most states aren't, but we're doing not great. So making sure that we're thinking about those things. And then I think just one more slide there, and I think it's just questions. As I said, my email address is there, and I'm certainly happy to take any questions from any of you on the board that might have some.
Trustee Dooley, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a couple of things.
Oh, wait.
So when was the district provided with your report? You mentioned a report. When did you submit that? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so we submitted the report about 4 weeks after we started. We just did the report review, I think it's about 2 weeks ago, I believe.
2 weeks ago.
And what we do with that report review is actually, we don't finalize the report until we've had the discussion with the district to make sure that the findings make sense to the
But you
district.
did submit a report.
Yes, we did.
Okay. The other question, you talked about tactical common findings. Is that not something that Mr. Beasley and his team could provide? Go around and look at the, and that's not for you. I'm sorry. I'm gonna redirect this to Superintendent Leverett. Go around and look at the doors and see what's broke without bringing another company in. And finally, again, this is to Dr. Leverett. Was this not the same thing that Chief Gross talked about? These trainings that needed to be done? And I guess I'm in a quandary as to how we're looking at a company to bring in for something that Chief Gross could have retained his job for. And because he, having been a chief police, I'm sure he has all security training. And then lastly, this goes back to you, Mr. Russell. How much, or just give me an estimation of how much these services would cost if you were to provide them to the district? Because I know they're not all free.
Yeah, the assessments are free. We haven't provided a proposal to provide any services, additional services.
So hypothetically, if you were to facilitate and move forward with what you have discussed with the superintendent, and I would imagine the board president as well, what would something like this cost?
If we were to develop your emergency procedures and do trainings, we're probably looking at $25,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And I'm guessing because I'm not really 100%.
So then, if you were to refer on what something like this has already cost another district, can you give me a high and a low end?
So if we have we charge $2,000 per building to develop an emergency procedure for the
You said 2,000?
2,000 per building, yeah. Trainings are $1,500 to $2,000 for a 3-hour session, depending.
And how many sessions normally would a group?
Some schools, districts do just one, put everybody in one session if they can do that before professional development. Some might do 2 or 3, depending on the district and what their particular needs are. And I will say that, to your point, these were grant-funded assessments. If they're not grant-funded, we would never recommend it a school if they already have somebody internal that can do assessments. One of the reasons you bring in outside people to do assessments is because sometimes you can't see the problems that are happening, or you're too close to it. So an independent outside expert often can be good at giving you kind of an additional perspective that maybe you're too close to see. And once again, because it's grant-funded, the district can bring in anybody that they want to do that.
And lastly, Mr. Russell, what professional security training do you come with?
As I said, so I was a police officer for 5 years. I was a Secret Service agent for more than a decade. So I did both presidential protection, visiting heads of state, 2 presidential campaigns. I did multiple, also worked on the Safe School Initiative with the Secret Service, which was a research project on behavioral threat assessment. And we assess, personally, I've assessed over 1,000 schools, and my company assesses between 1,500 to 3,000 organizations a year.
And in that 1,000 schools, how much time have you spent in schools dealing with the kids, staff?
Hundreds of hours. Every time I'm doing an assessment, I'm in the schools talking to staff, talking to kids, talking to administrators. So we're not just peeking in and writing recommendations. We're actually engaging with the people in that environment to get the best amount of information that we can. And as I mentioned, I was also on the School Safety and Mental Health Commission in the state of Michigan.
And just to be clear, you said the district could bring in anyone. And if they had in-house, that would probably go to an in-house personnel that's qualified to provide the same services as your company. Am I correct?
No, what I said was the district, in terms of this grant, was allowed to pick any vendor that they wanted to pick for the grant. And another requirement of the grant was we set the price. So there was to make sure that the districts were all charged a consistent price for these assessments across the state.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Trustee Gross and Trustee Miller.
Let's be transparent here. You guys were in the district last school year when you did these assessments, correct?
No, it was this school year.
Sorry?
Oh, yeah.
SEC came in last school district.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You came in last school district. Right, because I received phone calls that SEC was in the building.
Yeah.
And you didn't have contact with the chief of security at the time.
We didn't have contact with
didn't.
the chief of security?
You did not.
Yeah, the consultant did reach out to the chief of
No,
security.
that's not true. Chief of security was my brother.
Was he still in the district?
He
at
was in
that
the
time?
district last, sir, I know where we're going with this. Everything that you just discussed, everything is in place. He provided the training for the staff. Training even went out of state. He had documentation of a secure plan in case of emergencies. And you guys were in the district without the board's knowledge, because I received a phone call, and you never had contact with the staff.
That's not true.
That is true. Now, my question to you, when you came into the district last year, were you paid to do so?
The company was paid, yes.
The company was paid, and it was never presented to the board on the amount that you were paid. All right, I'm done.
It was a grant funded, so.
It doesn't matter. Didn't come to the board. I understand,
I don't-
and I'm
I'm
not
not-
trying to be combative towards you,
Yeah,
because I'm familiar with SEC and what you were doing. And my question, and then you said something highly important, that districts need a director. And this district removed the director, and they have 2 co-managers. I'm done.
Trustee Miller?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. A few things, I want to give you a little background before I ask my question. In my previous work experience, my company sent me to get the certification to be an ALICE trainer. So it was my responsibility to train all of our offices monthly on protection for a active shooter. In addition to that, so I have that certification. In addition to that, I was a parent. My son was a student. He's a student here now. But at that time, my son was a student at Oxford High School. And I know statistically, and according to the data, though there were unfortunately loss of life, the prevention for even more loss of life was the fact that every month that school district had ALICE training drills, like when we do fire drills, tornado drills, things like that. They had those monthly so that our students and our staff were prepared on how to respond. My question, with all that being said, so being that I'm a parent and an ALICE certified trainer, that is something that I am very familiar with extensively. My concern is when you said that the training that you provide is like a one-time training. A one-time training does not give the repetitiveness for our students and staff to be responsive in the event of an emergency, i.e. an active shooter. So what supports can you provide, or what is your recommendation so that being the climate that we're in, and I lived through it firsthand, the climate that we're in, if we have to respond to an active shooter, and if they've had that training one time and there's no repetitiveness, what is the expectation that our students and staff are able to be prepared?
that's a good question. First of all, I don't think you should just do the training one time. I think what I was referencing is an initial training, right? I think you should figure out a way that works within the district to keep a cadence up for that, whether that is bringing in your local police department to do that training, or your ALICE trained staff, or whatever it might be. And then practicing the drills. You're mandated to do some drills per the state requirements. I don't know that it's accurate that Oxford did monthly drills. I don't know.
It's accurate.
Okay. The SRO that was in Oxford works for us. I could confirm that with him. But certainly you want to practice when it's appropriate, right? I think you want to balance the fear of too much with making sure that people are prepared. So I think drills are appropriate. The cadence of your drills, I think obviously schools are required to do a certain amount for the state, but yeah, training is perishable. So whatever you're trained on, if you did CPR training when you were a senior in high school, you probably did, you don't remember it now. So I think that applies to everything, right? You want to make sure that you have some cadence of regular training. So.
Any other questions? Mr. Russell, I do want to just clarify something. From my understanding, we brought in SEC because we were allocated funds to bring in an outside company to assess the school safety, having another set of eyes to come in and look at what's already in place. We're not here, or you're not here to solicit additional business or to ask for a contract. But what you're saying is an outside company came in to look at the school safety plan that we already have in place and to help us to see what we're doing well and where we can use some improvements, period.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to understand because I'm listening to my trustees and they have valid questions.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure I understood the purpose of your presentation.
That is correct.
Okay. I'm sorry. And VP Bowman has a question.
With your company, when you come in and work with a local school district, do you automatically work with the police or sheriff department that is within that community, or you're independent?
If
And
there's a
don't-
school resource officer, we often try to get the school resource officer to participate in the assessment. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes just they're not able to do it or they're
Was our school resource officer there?
I did, one of our consultants did the assessment, and I do think he made contact with anyone he was able to make contact with related to security or law enforcement, because he is a retired law enforcement officer, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Trustee Dooley?
So in light of getting rid of Chief Gross, and then we promoted, I would like to think, Officer Cunningham and Officer Whitaker, does those two persons have substantial training, adequate training at this point in time, right now? I guess that would be to either Dr. Leverett or President Hannah to answer that.
Trustee Dooley, we can get that information, but since that's not part of Mr. Russell's presentation, we don't want to belabor and question whether our staff has the training needed for the roles that they're in.
So I guess I should rephrase it. Did they participate with you, Mr. Russell? Did anyone from PSD Security Department work with you?
Yeah, the consultant did reach out to safety and security personnel.
So did they work with you? I'm not asking, did you reach out to talk?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Russell? All right, thank you, sir. All right, Dr. Leverett, the Oakland County project presentation.
Yes, thank you. At this time, we'll have John Noyes. This is for discussion and action. Pontiac School District Partnership by co-locating Oakland County Parks and Recreation Program facilities, a park sheriff unit presence, a communal sheriff coordination area, the Sheriff Pal program, and a range of public outreach services at Frost. We can help create a transformational presence for the surrounding community. Future partnerships could include, for example, literacy programs in English as a second language, job training programs, literacy access and computer library, and safe refuge from abuse. The funding source is NA, and it is the recommendation of administration that Pontiac School District partner with Oakland County Parks and the Sheriff's Office to provide space for programs at Peace School that will provide outreach services and support to the community.
All right, trustees, any questions? And we do have representation here from Oakland County Parks.
Here's presentation.
They're not, do you have another presentation, or this is just for questions? If anybody have any questions, the presentation is, yes. That's an overview, right?
I'm not sure if you even know this. A board meeting, we were told that that building was irreparable. How much was spent to repair it to get it up to operating? I want to hear from them. I read it. I want to see if we're going to correspond with the numbers.
We would have no idea on
Clarity.
that.
Can we
Yeah.
go to the agenda topic?
And also, trustee Dooley, that's school district information that the outsiders wouldn't have that information in terms of what the district paid. But are there any
He
questions
stated
for
last
Ms.?
week, point of
Is
clarity.
there,
Point of clarity. Did he not state at our last meeting that he was a part of that did the, getting the building up to par? He was a part of that, or did I misunderstand what he presented?
Now, I apologize if I gave that impression, trustee. very new to the conversation about the condition in the building. We really have not looked at any assessments.
Okay,
So just, I think there was some conversation about the boiler being repaired at the last meeting. But we're, just kind of coming to this with an open mind and an open heart.
Yeah.
Hopefully, finding a way for this to be a success. I think our hope is to get this facility activated as soon as possible, show results in action, while on the longer term basis, we work towards a more long-term plan. But if we have this chance to move forward with like an MOU and a license to utilize the building, we want to get Sheriff Powell in there ASAP and start showing results. So if we can, if there's support on your end, we are here to try to help make this happen.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ward. Trustees, are there any questions?
One more.
Yes, Trustee Gross.
All right, and let me restate the question then. You've had the opportunity to visit and see the site
Yes.
itself inside, right?
Mhm.
You believe, based on what you see and your team has been in there, that the building is up to code for utilization?
I have absolutely no way to make that judgment.
But it's enough to.
Our feeling is that certainly.
Yes, so you to ask
I
for
think
partnership. to
Right.
use it,
Well,
correct?
it did operate as a school until just recently, right? So it had to meet certain standards for that. But if, I think our idea is to do this pilot phase for about a year. And then concurrently, we're going to do those types of things like
Oh, absolutely.
have a full assessment of the conditions and understand
And upon
what the
completed-
commitments are. Yeah.
On completed the assessment, you can provide this board with the, information that you
Absolutely.
have and,
Yep.
and cost and
Mhm.
who would fray those costs.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. VP Bowman.
Good evening. It's great to see you all, as always. With this potential partnership, this would be another partnership with Oakland County and the Pontiac School District. As far as the continued use of space, currently, with this, I know the county passed the park millage.
Mhm.
With this space being potentially used also as playground space, would some of those dollars be allotted to work with this area here in Pontiac with the school district?
Very likely. In the short term, we do have some skilled labor force folks that we can bring in to do any minor upgrades to make the space accessible and easily utilized, especially for Sheriff Powell programs. I think in the longer term, as we come up with a long-term agreement, and we've had some conversations with the city regarding the future of Murphy Park, and I think those things are somewhat tied together. We would certainly be open to that, and we want to make sure that dollars are reinvested back here in Pontiac, and we do appreciate your partnership because that's opened the door at former Hawthorne Park, and then has now opened the door to this conversation. So it just sort of shows what happens when we're talking to each other and working together.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, trustees?
Hi, nice to see you again. I was
you.
present for the presentation that you did for board governance, and thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And I understand that this district has had partnerships with Oakland County in the past. This is my first year in my 6-year term as a school board trustee. So I'm not familiar with, and nor have I received any literature to read in regards like a MOU or something. And I've heard you say that, correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like it's like a trial run. We'll see how it goes, like the first, is that correct?
That's, I think, the concept we're talking about.
My concern is that being that I'm not familiar with the previous partnerships, and so this to me is new.
Sure.
And with no MOU or anything that I can reference to know exactly where the district is going and how the partnership is structured, I don't know how this will look.
Yeah.
So can you expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So our first partnership is a long-term agreement that allows us to operate and manage the former Hawthorne Elementary School property that is adjacent to the former Hawthorne Park that's now Pontiac Oaks. We are in the early stages of coming up with a vision for what that could look like. And actually, it was our meeting with Dr. Hannah and Vice President Bowman that led to the conversation about the Frost Elementary School. I don't have what the MOU exactly would look like right now, but I would imagine the most difficult issues, which are more going to be lawyers to work out, are the liability for anything that happens in the building during this period, and perhaps some discussion about, dividing utility and operating costs. And I'm sure that we will find a good solution to that. Beyond that, we're just talking about a license to license to utilize the building in this 1 year period of time. And I believe it would be great if we could have an ongoing committee to coordinate with membership from the board and Oakland County Parks, Sheriff Powell. There's always the opportunity other partners can come to the table. They can provide something of value in the building there. And I think we would all want to see the chance to pursue that if it's positive. But again, this is your building, and we respect that. And we want to make sure whatever we're doing here is long-term sustainable. We don't want to build this on hopes and dreams. We want to show some action. That's certainly what we learned with the Pontiac Oaks project was the city gave us the keys and said, please take over. And we went in there and just started making change as soon as we could. And that's how I feel we're most likely going to build trust in the community in support for this over the long haul.
And I appreciate that. I am very excited to utilize that building in a capacity that can benefit our community. Being that as a board, we are responsible to our community, our students and our staff, to be able to justify how we're moving and why we're moving in that direction. Respectfully, for me, it's just a level of uncertainty because I am unsure as to what contributions are required or suggested from the district. It feels like that we're just going into a partnership blindly and everything will be ironed out and discussed at a later date after we've already secured the partnership. I'm excited about the partnership, but it's just the technical details, the fine line item things that I'm entitled to be able to regurgitate that to my community and say, this is why I supported this, because the district is responsible for this, and financially it won't be a strain.
That's absolutely understandable. I was elected official before the turn of the century, a long time ago, and understand your responsibility here. If you'd like us to come back with a complete MOU, we're happy to do whatever the district is comfortable with. We were asked to come back here. I've asked our attorneys to help start working on the draft, but they aren't as eager to get it done as I am, apparently. So I'm going to keep the heat on them. And I understand if you want us to come back, we're happy to come back at a different date. Whatever works best for you and your comfort level.
And it's not, I want to make sure that people understand, I'm speaking as an individual, as a board collectively, that will have to be a decision that the board makes. I'm just saying that I am excited about this program. I'm excited about a partnership. But for me, unless I know the details, I feel like I'm not doing my due diligence to the community to be able to substantiate why I vote a certain way or why I support the project that I support. But I have to be able to tell the community and give them information on what this project is about and give them some details. But that's just me speaking. And if the board collectively would like for you to come back, or if they want to proceed, that's not up to me. I'm just speaking, stressing my concern. But thank you, though.
Trustee Dooley.
So this is basically to support our children, and I'm glad about it, the recreational portion. My question to you is, did you do, in your community engagement or involvement, did you do a report on security? And what I mean by that particular area was supposedly, allegedly reported as being unsafe. So if it's unsafe for the school, I'm kind of thinking it would be unsafe for recreational programs. So have you done any research as to the crime rate that area has to see if this will be a sustainable project?
Yeah, so I guess I'm looking at it from the other side of the coin, that this is an opportunity for outsized impact. This is an area that has a high degree of public housing, lower than average income levels, higher than average poverty levels. I believe, I was just looking at the statistics.
The demographics.
The
you're right.
subsidized lunch levels for when the school was open, very high. The Sheriff Pal program is one of the most effective that I've ever seen in terms of action in, building relationships. And, there are those situations where there is, greater crime. And I don't know if that is the case here, but I think the only way we're going to get ahead of it is if we start to, have a presence in the community and engage directly with the residents in the area. So, these are all questions I'm getting from the board I answer to as well. And they're all good questions. Sometimes I think the best thing we could do is just go in there and start showing what we can get done. But I understand wanting some answers to some basic questions. And I'm happy to keep pushing it forward and coming back at future meetings. I am generally hearing that it's something that you are all open to. So that is, enough to keep moving forward from my perspective. So, John, do you want to add anything to that?
Other than thank you so very much for the opportunity. And again, like what Chris had said, we're just looking for opportunities to partner with you all. It's a unique opportunity. It's an awesome place.
It's really hard to say no to this guy. Should have had you lead.
Well, no, I appreciate you, your presentation before and you being here today. But part of our understanding and even having this conversation was to discuss going into partnership as relates to the school. We understand that as of today, there is no signed MOU in place, but that is something that will come once we agree and it has been approved by the board to say, yes, we would like to partner with Oakland County Parks as well as Oakland County Sheriff. So once that's established that, yes, we are interested in partnering, then all the entities will sit down and we'll have a discussion as to what that looks like. Being that this property is newly vacant and there has been a lot of ideas that were just thrown out in terms of what it could look like, and even the interest from the Sheriff's Department about that space because of the high security issue that is over there, why they thought that this would be ideal for them to have space in that area. So I think the point of you all being here today, again, is one for the board to decide, yes, we would like to partner with these two entities. And then the next step is representation from this board, along with your representation from the county, as well as the sheriff's office or the city, would then sit down and talk about what this plan is and what this project will look like in its entirety. And then that will be the specifics of the details. From my understanding and based on the conversations that you've shared, we've not discussed any of that in its totality. Everybody has just thrown out ideas and the excitement about the possibility of utilizing that space as an opportunity hub for our community. So I just wanted to say that for the board so they understand why you're here is so we can decide if, yes, we want to move forward and partner, and that agreement will then set in place the motion for each of the entities to begin discussing what this partnership, the details of this partnership. So as a board, we can move forward, or if it is the pleasure of this board to say, no, you don't want to move forward in that regard, but you would like for representation of the board, the city, and the county to come together first to again talk about what it potentially could be.
Yeah, if I can, Dr. So the Oakland County Parks Commission voted they voted in favor of exploring the partnership. And it seems like that's what we're talking about here today.
Yes.
And that way, I'm an appointed person, and we as staff are not freelancing. And we didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. This is always the challenge with these things. We want to bring everybody into the conversation, but then people want the answers that we have to have the conversation about first. So it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg situation. So if you're comfortable with just something along the lines of exploring the partnership, and we can come back with a legal document and some answers to trustees' questions.
Yes.
I'm more than happy to keep moving it forward.
All right.
What is the potential cost for the district to enter into this partnership?
Well, again, I think just,
We will incur some costs, though.
well, you have costs that you're going to continue to have if the building is sitting there, right? So it's hard for me to see how the school district will have more costs than they're having right now. But I hate to give you a definitive answer without really vetting all of it
Absolutely.
yet. So maybe that is something we can report back to you when we're back again with the legal agreement.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on down to action item. If I can get a motion on the floor for the approval of the Pontiac School District partnership with Oakland County Parks project.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by VP Bowman and supported by Treasurer Terry for the approval of the Pontiac School District partnership with Oakland County Parks project. Any questions?
Yes. How is it expected that I am supposed to vote on something blindly? I've never read any documentation of the MOU partnership or any partnership with Oakland County. Though I am supportive of it, is it unrealistic or unreasonable for me to do my due diligence to this community by asking for, hey, give me some potential language so I can know what this district obligation is? We are, in my opinion, though, yes, it is important that we utilize that space so it doesn't sit idle. But it went from us talking about me asking for a timeline in April of when we were going to make a decision about it to one presentation, and now we're voting on it with no documentation. Is it unreasonable for me to ask for a project that I support to have something to read so I can communicate that to the community?
VP Bowman?
Chris and John, would you mind coming back up to the mic for just a second to answer this question? And it may potentially ease the discomfort of my trustee. Okay, and Marvin and Bill, you may have to chime in and answering this question as well. But right now, Pontiac School District burdens 100% of the cost and repair and anything that happens to that building because it's our property, correct?
I believe that's the case. I don't know if it's appropriate, but just suggesting, saying explore the partnership versus enter into the partnership may provide some more comfort level, because I understand where you're coming from.
Are you, so, and I know as far as the conversation, the four of you are in the room, community engagement with community expectations. Are you all willing to help
Absolutely.
engage the community so that they can chime in
Mhm.
with future potential uses of the building?
Absolutely. So I look at that as the longer term plan that we're going to come up with while we're doing this first year pilot. But again, without some sort of motion that indicates an early commitment or interest, or without tying ourselves down to a legal agreement, it's hard for us to have a public engagement session with the public.
Understandable.
So,
And then the last part of my question, so Oakland County, in some regard, is willing to, we don't know what regard, but in some regard, Oakland County is willing to lift some of the burden of cost with the building or management to help the district in some regard.
I believe that's the case, although I also answer to a Board of Commissioners and a Parks Commission, and they're asking the very same questions you're asking here tonight. So, I think we do need to do all of our due diligence and give the answers that everybody will be looking for. I certainly see the potential here. I'm excited about it, as I know you are. I don't have a vote in the matter, though. I'm an
Understandable.
appointee, so You know, I think this is really, to be very frank, this is very outside the box. This is not something we have any precedent for. However, you know, I think this is actually, you know, a great example of how we should think outside the box and take advantage of opportunities that present themselves. But you know, we're going to need our elected officials to really be behind this, pushing it forward, because it isn't the normal course of business.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Trustee Gross?
Yes, this is for you, Dr. Hannah and Dr. Leverett. With the approval of this item on the agenda, is this approval of an MOU?
No, this is not an MOU. This is just
What is
approval of
this?
us going into a partnership, exploring the partnership with Oakland County Parks.
So that
So
leads
just-
me, that leads me to my next question. If we approve this tonight, will this partnership allow OCP to actually go into the building?
No.
And I think that's the concern, because we don't want to make a move until we have an MOU approved. And the MOU, once it's approved, that's when people start taking their positions in the building, correct?
Correct.
So this is just for a partnership,
Yes.
Exploring.
not utilization of the building and going inside and everybody doing what they need to do. I just need the board to have understanding of what we're doing on this vote.
Yes. That is what we.
Okay, and lastly, also remember, a building is sitting empty. And an empty building attracts negative things that we don't want.
Correct.
So all I'm saying, tonight is just for partnership. We will then explore what we need to do to put everything together to go into an MOU for this program to start.
Yes.
Correct.
And that's what I want us to understand.
Point of clarity.
Trustee Dooley?
With that explanation that trustee Gross just gave, then this pretty much seals the deal without the logistics. Am I correct?
No. We still are asking.
Well,
the board
wait,
to vote.
wait.
No.
I can't remember your name. Chris just stated that we will go into an agreement. This vote tonight would give us an agreement to proceed, and we would work out the kinks with a MOU, memorandum of understanding. Am I correct?
No, and if I could just make a suggestion, just adding the word explore to your motion may alleviate a lot of concern, and if you would like to, I'm sorry, this is not my business.
No, go ahead.
It's your motion, but just to say, you know, that.
That we'll do exploration.
Yeah, a legal agreement would have to come back to the board.
Right.
Then I think we're all talking about the
Yes.
same thing.
I just want to be clear on what I'm voting on, because I too support bringing this type of program to our children and in the neighborhood. Can only put us in a better position. However, I don't want us to be legally binding at this time. Thank you.
Again, we're just agreeing that we want to partner with these entities. That is it. That's it. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, point of clarity. Are we exploring or are we entering into a partnership? Is that word, it means, has two different meanings. Are we exploring the partnership or are we entering into a partnership?
So again, not my place, because this is your motion, but perhaps just adding that word exploring to your motion.
That would be
should
helpful.
Alleviate the concerns, because you could interpret entering into a partnership to mean that we're entering into a legal agreement.
Absolutely.
The word explore would be absolutely crucial for me to be able to proceed with this. Thank you.
I remove the motion that was previously made stating that we will approve the partnership. So the correct verbiage that we'll use for this action item is to explore, the approval to explore a partnership with Oakland County Parks project with Pontiac School District. Can I get a motion, please?
So move.
Support.
It's been moved by trustee Dooley, supported by BP Bowman, for the approval of exploring a partnership with Oakland County Parks Project and Pontiac School District. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
President Hannah,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Treasurer Terry. Yes. VP Bowman,
Yes.
Trustee Dooley,
Yes.
and I'm voting yes. Madam Chair, that passed 6-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next on the agenda, General Counsel and Human Resource items. Dr. Leverett.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hannah. This evening, we are excited to present the candidate for Executive Director of Human Resources, Dr. Suzanne Kavanaugh. Her relevant skills and experiences are participating in selection of personnel for position from director down to building helper, completing annual goal setting and review of colleague performance at all levels, ensuring adherence to board policy, school code, and employee non-negotiables, trainer, the district trainer and building administrator of the school advanced administrator evaluation system, participating in grievance meetings and conflict resolution, leading restorative sessions, organizational management, working to maintain a positive culture and climate inclusive of all stakeholders, implementing and overseeing the budget for state and federal grant programs, plan and presented staff development and school district improvement activities, district implementation of professional learning communities, created administrator salary table and work calendar for the administrators union, educational law and compliance, meet with school police liaison officer to ensure school safety and compliance with Title IX, serve as Pontiac Association of School Administrators Union president for 5 years, review and negotiate collective bargaining agreements to ensure compliance with law. Dr. Kavanaugh has been an employee of Pontiac School District for the last 14 years in various capacities. Most recently, she is the principal at Owen Elementary School. She also worked at Pontiac High School as the principal, as well as International Technology Academy. She was the principal at International Technology Academy for 8 years, where student enrollment increased from 210 students to over 950. As the administrator, she was also responsible for staff oversight, K-12 curriculum, and budgeting for general fund and grant monies for 4 different educational programs. As a building level administrator and union president, she has participated in the hiring at the building level, building administrator, district level directors, and as the union president has continued to lead the collective bargaining process for the PESA union contract. She's a member of the district blueprint installation team, adaptive schools trainer, school advanced administrator evaluation system. Ashley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is the recommendation of administration that Dr. Suzanne Kavanaugh be appointed as the Executive Director of Human Resources. The proposed 2025-2026 contract will secure Dr. Suzanne Kavanaugh's services at the rate of $134,571.05, step 1 of the non-union administrator executive director salary table. This position is not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Education discuss and move to action the contract of Dr. Suzanne Kavanaugh as Executive Director of Human Resources effective September 23rd, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 at the rate of $134,000. Sorry, let me say that over. $134,571.05.
Thank you very much. Trustees. Yeah. Any questions?
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
June 9th, 2025, we voted for a contract for our interim superintendent that's valid for 1 year. To my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, there is not a clause in that contract that I read or was presented that states that the interim superintendent will go back to the previous salary upon hiring a director. My concern with that is that, correct me if I'm wrong, essentially we'll be paying 2 people in the upwards of $265,000.
No.
I just did the math.
So I'll be returning to my HR journalist role at that rate. It is a clause, I believe, in there. I can't remember which exact letter that I'll be returning back to my role based on the decision has made here as a journalist at the rate that I would have been making had I stayed in that role.
Okay, well, thank you. I don't have it.
I'll get it to
Okay.
Dr. Leverett to share with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Treasurer Terry?
For this particular position, I got actually two questions. How many people actually apply for the position?
There were a number of applicants. I can get the exact number of who applied.
You got
But,
a number?
okay, maybe 50-ish people, but not all would have necessarily qualified for the role, but we did have a number of applicants.
Okay, and how many were interviewed out of the 50?
I believe we did a interview of 5. I believe it was 5 candidates that we interviewed.
Okay, and then how many people participated in that interview?
Ooh, I would want to say maybe 6 was on the interview committee,
6
maybe
total?
7. Mhm.
Okay, through both interviews?
All 5 interviews. We had about 6 people on those interviews.
VP Bowman?
So 5 people interviewed, 50-ish applications. How long was the window of opportunity? How long was this posted?
I believe it's been posted since June or July, perhaps. I'll have to look online for the actual date of posting.
Okay, thank you.
I do
Trustee
have,
Dooley has a-
Trustee Dooley, you have a
nope.
question? I do have a question. This is a very key position for our school district, as we know, dealing with human resources. So I do see the extensive experience that Dr. Kavanaugh has and her commitment after being here for 14 years. One of the things that I'm wondering if, and this could, maybe with some of the other candidates, it's important that the candidates have extensive human resources experience as their primary work. So I'm just curious to know of maybe the 5 other candidates that may have been interviewed, and you may not remember, but how many were actually human resource professionals?
They, the candidates we interviewed had human resources experience.
Any other questions?
Yes. What, I didn't hear anything about training in the laws from the candidate. When you read off, whoever read it off, her experience. So what training does she have in the laws that regard the accreditation and certification? Where's that coming from? Was it completed?
From, I believe she has a certification from Michigan State University in Human Resources.
That was
That was
completed in July.
completed.
So it's to be completed, am I correct? It's not completed.
I believe it is completed.
It was completed in July of 2025.
It was
based on-
Oh, she just completed it in July.
And there's additional trainings and stuff that can be offered with anyone that's coming into this human resources in the educational field. There is a gap, a learning curve, whether you're coming from manufacturing or whichever division that you would have to learn when coming into education. There are resources available. We have MSBO, who does a human resources program. We have SHRM that does a human resources program. So with any candidate that comes in, that training opportunity is available.
Point of information, the documentation that was submitted in the board packet with the resume and the credentials, it says specifically anticipated completion of July of 2025. even though, yes, this is September, but I would assume that the most current information would have been submitted to this board. So it is to my belief and understanding that it was initially anticipated that it would be done in July of 2025, but it doesn't say completed with a completion date. And if it has been completed successfully, why was the board not notified with the most accurate and updated information for the candidate?
It's just an error on my end. I'll be happy to provide that information if requested.
Do you have a question?
Mhm.
And the resume was given to us, and it was noted in the resume that someone that was on the interview team was also utilized as a reference. Isn't that a conflict of interest?
Certainly.
On the resume, a reference of an individual that worked in the district is also on the interviewing team. I got an issue with that. And we didn't look at that.
We did. I know I did. And that's a level of concern because again, let me see. Point of clear, I'm sorry, Trustee Gross, I interrupted you.
Any other questions? Trustee
Yes.
Miller?
To piggyback on what I so rudely interrupted Trustee Gross's statement. This is why it is imperative that we have to have someone that is well-versed and knowledgeable as it relates to HR policy and law. We have a substantial amount of risk in this district, and we don't have time for missteps or uncertainty. What Trustee Gross says, I'm not an HR professional, but based on my research, I believe it is a conflict of interest. But what do I know? I'm not an HR professional. I'm not going to pretend to be. But there is a level of concern, and I agree with Trustee Gross.
Any other questions? All right, moving on down to action items. Can I get a motion for the approval of candidate recommendation for hire, Dr. Susan Kavanaugh, Executive Director of Human Resources? We can just call for the vote.
Call for the vote.
Trustee Gross, can you do the roll call, please?
It has to be a motion, an official motion in support.
Be a second.
If not, then the matter does not pass.
The matter does not pass.
Okay, I'll ask again. Can I get a motion for the approval of candidate recommendation for hire, Dr. Susan Kavanaugh, Executive Director of Human Resources? Okay.
I make a motion.
Yes.
I make a motion that we reopen the position of Executive Director of Human Resources, so not only within the district as well as outside.
Support.
It's been moved by Trustee Gross and second by Trustee Dooley to reopen the position of Executive Director of Human Resources for internal and external candidates. Any questions? Treasurer Terry.
Not so much as a question, but more or less as a recommendation. I'm not for sure who's all on this team. I'm not sure how long they've been on this team, but I am recommending that we replace that team with new people.
I ask that we can make a motion upon the completion and voting of this motion, add that we change an interviewing team once this motion is made and voted on.
Okay, so the first motion is still on the floor. Any other comments regarding the first motion, which is to reopen the Executive Director of Human Resource position for internal and external candidates?
Yes, I have a question. Does that mean that our candidate that was set for approval will go and retain their previous position.
They were never given the position, so that her position was.
I was gonna say for the record.
Yeah,
because
so if she's not there, then her position was not changed.
I got you.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Roll call, please.
No, you need a motion and support.
Oh, we did a motion.
Oh, okay, me and
Dooley.
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 Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Miller,
You said Miller? Yes,
to reopen.
yes.
Treasurer Terry,
Yes.
VP Bowman,
Yes.
Trustee Dooley.
Yes.
I'm voting yes, and President Hannah.
Yes.
It passed 6-0. Now, Mark,
Okay.
make your motion. Do we need a motion, really? To change the interviewing committee? Who makes that decision, Ms. Dr. Leverett, that's who's on this interviewing committee?
Who makes the
Who
decision?
makes the decision for those who are placed on the interviewing committee?
Check policy. It changes depending on who's available. So your motion, very well, it could be different people on the committee.
Not made the motion.
Point of clarity.
It's a recommendation.
Check the policy.
We recommend it.
I'm recommending that you replace the team.
Are you placing as official motion, Treasurer Terry? Because I will second that. Is that a motion?
No, it's not a motion.
Not a motion.
just
It's
yet.
not a motion.
But Dr. Leverett was responding to Trustee Gross's question, and I think she said that the interviewing team changes. It's not consistent. Is that what you were
That
saying?
is correct.
And the reason why I asked the question is how is it that a candidate who uses a person on the interviewing team as a reference to be interviewed by that reference person?
Right.
That's a mistake that the interviewing team should have seen, and it was not seen, and the interview continued, and this person went through the interview. It was actually picked by that interviewing team. That's an embarrassment to this district, and it also is an embarrassment to that candidate. If this would have been caught in the beginning, we wouldn't be here voting on this candidate. That's an issue. Mr. Terry made this same type of comment 2 years ago in a board meeting as his concern as it pertains to the interviewing team in this process.
In addition, do we need
Something has to
to,
change.
So we don't need to put a motion to change the interviewing team because the interviewing team changes. So we're saying that the next time a candidate is up for an interview, it will not be the same team that conducted the interviews this time. Is that correct?
That is correct. It will
It
not
can't
be
be,
the same
Madam
makeup.
Chair, if
no.
the same candidate.
point of order.
I understand it can't be, but I'm asking for clarification so that we know if we need to move forward with the motion that Treasurer Terry lifted the first time. But it sounds like that motion is not necessary because there will not be the same team of interviewers as we move forward because Dr. Leverett has said that the team changes. So it's not always the same people doing the interviews, if I understand correctly.
Point of order, President Hannah, can you show me that in policy? Or Superintendent Leverett, there has to be a policy somewhere in place that dictates and governs how this procedure is to be implemented, executed. So I too agree with Trustee Gross. We wouldn't be here and it would not be, and hopefully it's not an embarrassment to you, Principal Kavanaugh. We're trying to write this board to follow policy. So that was a direct violation, contradiction, and anybody that's sitting in here under the sound of my voice know that you cannot have a person on the committee that's going to do the hiring and recommendation, and they have been used as your reference. It doesn't go like that. So that's the real issue, in addition to some other things. But again, we need policy to dictate to ensure that we don't find ourselves in this same position again.
Question
Trustee Gross.
to Dr. Leverett. What is the possibility or probability of actually having someone from the outside be part of the interviewing committee?
I think that would be a good idea.
Yep.
I think a community person would be a good idea.
I'm just asking. And that ought to be fair. It's a recommendation.
Okay,
There's,
all right, moving down.
no. I also have a statement. I raised my hand. I also support what the recommendation from both Treasurer Terry and Trustee Gross. There should be, I understand that we're being told that there is a rotation, but if I can have internet, I would have pulled up the policy by now to see what we are supposed to be doing. We can't just continue to do what we want to do. We are governed by policy and law.
Right.
So if we are supposed to be doing this some way, and we're not, or if there's not anything written in policy, then Treasurer Terry's recommendation would be valid, because it would be recommended as a director of this Board of Education that we give the directive to our superintendent that we desire to change the committee, the current interview committee. His motion is valid.
Dr. Leverett, is there a policy in place that says how the interviews are conducted and the persons
Point of order.
was selected? Excuse me,
Okay, can-
if there's a policy in place? Okay, Dr. Leverett will review and see if there is a policy that specifically speaks to the interviewing process and the selection of candidates that sit on that policy, on that interviewing. Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, President Hannah, would we not go to our own policy committee to find that and not put that on Dr. Leverett?
Absolutely.
We have a policy committee.
We do have a policy committee. And unless someone here from the policy committee wants to speak to that,
I will if I had internet. I've been trying to pull it up. I can't access I can't access the policies in this building. I apologize. If I could, I would have done that. But my other question in regards to that is, we're steamrolling ahead. Treasurer Terry, Trustee Miller, I don't want to speak on behalf of my other trustees. We all have a valid concern, is that until we determine if there is a written policy and procedure, as of right now, Treasurer Terry, if he shall proceeds, needs to be recognized for his motion, because many of us have a concern about who is on the committee for interviewing. We cannot steamroll past this. There's a valid concern. And if Treasurer Terry is not comfortable, or would not like to make his motion, I'm going to.
VP Bowman?
I will, well, considering the access to the internet to pull up policies, but post haste, once we have availability for internet, we need to find that policy. And if Trustee Terry's motion would like to continue his motion, I would definitely support.
If I may,
Treasurer Terry?
So board policy P04120, within those paragraphs, it specifically states the superintendent shall prepare procedures for the recruitment and selection of all staff, support staff. So we need to be reviewing that procedure.
that's correct. That was my statement. And that, if I may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
if that's Mr. Terry's point. Sir?
Yeah, I yield.
Yeah, mine is, that exactly my concern is that this matter be reviewed in the policy committee and bring to the board governance, informational as well as a possible vote to move forward as it pertains to the interviewing process.
I am
This has
waiting.
been going on for quite some time now. When I was back on the board in 1999, it's been the same process. Nothing has changed.
Okay, VP Bowman?
We're waiting on the attorneys to update us with some more Neola policies. I'm waiting to get back with Susan to give us a date for the policy committee. I sent out that correspondence earlier this week. So upon Susan getting back with me with the attorney, we'll set a policy meeting post haste and have this discussion so we can bring it up at the governance meeting.
Thank you. Trustee Miller?
Yes, thank you. I'll make this my last one for this subject. Being that VP Bowman is the chair of the policy committee, and I understand that we get our downloads from Neola, I will commit myself with her permission to compare our policy with the state law, which is what Neola does, and I will have an answer for you by tomorrow. At least an answer for the board that can be reviewed and brought forth as a vote with your permission.
Any other questions or comments regarding this matter? Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, I do, excuse me. So when do we expect to re-put this job out there? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Curriculum and instruction. Dr. Leverett.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hannah. At this time, we'll have Jennifer Dean present our 2025 state testing results. Curriculum and instruction will present the 2025 state testing results for the district, and this is a report only. Jennifer.
Thank you, Dr. Leverett. Good evening, board members,
Good evening.
staff, and community members. Tonight's presentation will be somewhat lengthy, as I do have talking points for every slide. My hope is to tell the full story of the district as well as some next step recommendations. But I would ask that you please hold all questions until the end, as I may address something as I progress throughout the presentation. So I will start with WIDA data. I always like to give a reminder of how WIDA is scored. And we have a scale of 1 to 6. 1 starting with students with little to no English background, and 6 moving into the ability for students to use both social and academic language at the highest level. Students are exited from the WIDA test once they reach a 4.8, and they are exited from the ELSL program with monitoring as needed. Achieving this level of English language proficiency typically takes 5 to 7 years. Next slide. Thank you. So this slide, we are looking at cohort students, so meaning students that were with us in both the spring of 2024 and the spring of 2025, and we're looking at the composite proficiency level.
Excuse me, can we ask questions while you go so we can look at the pertinent data? Opposed to waiting to the end and then we have to go back through slides. So my question is, what did you do for pre-data? What's your baseline data? What did you use and where's that baseline data showed so I can see the progress?
So for this comparison, the baseline data would be the spring of 2024 compared against the spring of 2025. Kindergarten, we're looking at spring of 2024. The mean composite proficiency level was 1.32. That same group of students as first graders in the spring of 2025 increased to 2.23.
So what happened to kindergartners that were, they were 1.32 in 24? There's a black space. Am I not seeing the numbers?
Because this is comparing cohort students. In the spring of 2024, those kindergartners would have been preschoolers that they didn't take the WIDA test then. So we have no comparative data yet for those spring of 2025 kindergartners. Next year, when this is presented again, we'll have spring of 2025 kindergarten data and what it looks like in spring of 2026 when they're first graders. Again, that spring of 2026 section will be blank because there's nothing previous to compare to. And this particular slide is comparing proficiency levels among students that are in a cohort. Moving across from grade level to grade level, and if we follow the color coding, we see consistent increases in that mean composite proficiency level, with the exception of students going from 5th grade. So we're looking at the blue under 5th grade and the blue under 6th grade. We go from 2.7 to 2.73. So barely any growth. We will see this trend throughout our data with 6th grade students. And I will speak more to that as I proceed through the slides. Let's see. Make sure I didn't miss anything there. Okay, this next slide is WIDA growth. So starting in the spring of 2022 through the spring of 2025, students that were with us for that entire time. You'll see in parentheses there, I put 401. So this is not all of the students that were tested across the district. This is just students that were with us from spring of 2022 to spring of 2025. That's 401 students. That group of students started in spring of 2022 with 20% being at that level 1, that's the lowest level. Progressing through spring of 2025, we're now at 4%. And we see the increases in the levels moving into 3 to 4, and we're at 32% that are at that level 4 or higher. Remembering that it takes 5 to 7 years to attain proficiency, English language proficiency, we expect to see the majority of this cohort exiting in the next 3 years. And the slide is looking at WIDA growth. The state assigns a growth score to each student that, if attained, indicate the student is making adequate progress to reach English proficiency in the expected time. So we're looking at the average growth score of all students at each school over a 3-year period. And to put a little bit more behind this, looking at that first column, the 2022-23 school year, the state mean was 49.9, and the county mean was 53.7. When we look at the spring of 2024, the state mean again was 49.9, and the county mean was 54.9. 2024-25 student growth data has not yet been released in my school data, so I don't have those numbers for you. I want to stop here and also address that Dr. Alisea and his team have been working with an MDE consultant over the last 2 years as part of a program review. One of the recommendations was made that based on our increasing ESL population, we need to hire more ESL teachers. This year, we increased the number of ESL teachers at Pontiac Middle School by 1. We have 3 new ESL teachers at Pontiac High School. And when I say ESL, it could be that they are ESL, designated ESL teachers, or that they are teaching the ELD, the English Language Development Program, and they are certified to teach that program. And then we also have 3 new ESL teachers at ITA, and you'll see a little bit more about our demographic data and numbers, and you'll see where the priority was put at these schools based on the needs at the time. There are further recommendations to hire more certified ESL staff across all schools, but these were working with the MDE school, the consultant, the schools that were prioritized to be of need first. And next we'll move into MSTEP math, and we're looking at this data by school. I want to give a little bit more information behind this because I want to really put into terms what this means. Right now on this slide, you're looking at percent proficient or above, but I want to give some numbers to that. At Elcott Elementary, 123 students were tested. 14 of those 123 students are proficient or above. That leaves 109 students that still need support. At Whitman, 165 students were tested. Out of that 165, 12 were proficient. At Harrington, 113 students were tested. 5 were proficient. At Owen, 142 were tested, 13 are proficient. At Rogers, 111 were tested, 24 are proficient. At ITA, 55 were tested, 203 are proficient. And at ILA, 14 were tested, 125 were proficient. At Pontiac Middle School, 352 students are tested, and 4 of those students are proficient.
I think you inverted the numbers because you said 14 were tested.
Okay, I'm sorry, at ILA?
Yes, yes.
Is that the only one I inverted?
It would
So
go back like 2
ITA
schools.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you.
ITA, 203 students were tested, 55 of those students were proficient. At ILA, 125 students were tested, 14 of those students were proficient. At Pontiac Middle School, 352 students were tested, 4 students were proficient. And I'm going to get into more demographic data and more background behind some of this.
Why was Pontiac High School omitted from this?
This is the M-STEP test, and this is given for students in grades 3 through 7. ITA has K through 12.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. So this is for grades 3 through 7 for ELA and math, M-STEP. We'll look at PSAT and SAT, which we'll get into our 8th grade at the middle school, as well as our 11th grade at the high school. Okay. Looking at M-STEP math by grade. So overall, we do see that the district increased by 2%. And then again, following some of that, I don't want to say cohort data because it's not a true cohort, but if we look at the dark blue purple graph under 3rd grade, we see 14% of the students were proficient. If you follow that to the 4th grade, gray bar, we see 14% of students are proficient. So that not an entire cohort, but all of the students tested, and I can, to give some context to that as well, I can say in 4th grade, 284 students were tested. 197 of those students were part of that 3rd grade group. So as we look at this data, I kind of want to draw attention to the dark purple bar from one grade to the gray bar of the next grade. So when we look at 4th grade, we see 11% for spring of 2024, and that group is now 9% in spring of 2025 as 5th graders. For 6th grade, we see 5% for the spring of 2024. Moving to 7th grade, we see 6% for the spring of 2020, or I'm sorry, 8% for the spring of 2025. I skipped one because I want to, again, I said I was going to continue to draw attention to this. Look at 5th grade. The purple bar, spring of 2024, 16% proficient. Now look at 6th grade, the gray bar, spring of 2025, 5%. That is a drastic decrease. We need to provide more wraparound services to our students moving out of elementary school into middle school. And just to give some numbers behind that group as well, in 6th grade, 232 total students were tested. 177 of those were the 5th graders that had part of that 16%. So still a very significant number moving forward. And then we have our M-STEP math by demographic. Here I'm going to call attention to our ESL and special education populations and put some story behind that, not to offer excuses, but to offer what our reality is and what we need to plan for and how we need to service our students better. So we've seen the decreases over the last 2 to 3 years here with both the ELL and the special ed, the 2 at the end. We have also seen an increase of ELL students coming into the country, coming into our district, who came from a country where they lived in a remote area. They didn't have a local school. They have no formal schooling. But when they come here, whatever age they are, we have to place them into the correct grade appropriate, or age level appropriate grade. We can't just start everybody at kindergarten. We've seen some of the same things happening with our gen ed population and some of those students that came in as special ed or were quickly referred to special ed, students coming in at age 7, 8, 9, even older, that due to COVID and circumstances, they have not been in school.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
And it might be, you had mentioned special ed. What percentage, what percentage of Pontiac School District students are special ed students?
The last count that I saw was about 700 of the students. Dr. Jameson, yeah, about 700. And out of our total, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So those two things, and then with our ELL students, we usually say that math is universal. If we provide the test to them in Spanish, then they should be successful on the math test. But again, if they're coming in with no formal schooling, that changes the narrative. And again, not to make excuses, but to identify that we have to strive to educate these students as well. Yes.
I do have one question. Listening to everything, listening to everything you just said and provided regarding these details, I'm questioning now, because I know a lot of us have issues with a lot of these low numbers. And when we compare ourselves to other districts as well, we want to see our numbers up there flourishing with every other district as well. Listening to some of the things you just mentioned, and I'm sure you probably heard this before, but the way you're breaking it down, how accurate is this data then in regards to, I guess you want to say, our students, as far as comparing what we're seeing to if our program is actually working? Because what you're telling me now is that we got variables because of the English learner students coming in. They're having changes. They're having difficulties. There's a communication barrier.
Right.
But at the same time, we get stuck with that, and that affects our numbers overall, if I'm correct.
So the
I know
reality
you
is,
didn't- I know
yes,
this
these
isn't-
are our students.
I know this isn't every student in here. This is, I want to say, an average taken, whatever, I'm assuming. You use so many students, or just all representing all students.
Which are you referring to the?
Go back a slide.
Back a slide? Yes, so this slide is all students that were
All
tested.
students that were tested.
Yes, so there's 537 ELL students. Not all 537 have that circumstance, but that is a new circumstance that has come to us in the last couple of years, as well as students that are local students who, due to COVID and terribly awful situations, have not been in school and are coming in later without schooling. Again, that's not a large majority, but it's another factor to bring in. And again, I want to tell our full school district story when I stand up here tonight.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to.
So I
put
think the
together-
next slide might give a little bit more background. This is the 3-year cohort data. So if we look at the top box, we are looking at all the students that we tested in the spring of 2025 for MSTEP in grades 3 through 7. The district level proficiency and each grade level proficiency. If we go down to the bottom box, we are looking at students who have been here for 3 consecutive years. And that's where we start looking at, is what we're doing working? We're not, we can look at these numbers. We're not seeing a big difference. We see some change. That 4th grade cohort group is actually less proficient than the all-student group. The overall group is 2% more proficient. The 3rd grade group is 2%. The 5th grade cohort group is 3%. The 6th grade is 1%. And the 7th grade, we see a difference of 5%. Does that help give a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that helps a little bit more.
Okay. And I also want to point out that this, all students tested is around 1,400. By the time we get to that 3-year cohort, we have less than 900 students. So that it's a big difference in the number of students, or the number of students that we retain for that consistent 3-year.
Why is that, Jennifer Day? Why is there a difference?
So students, if we're looking at students that are with us for 3 consecutive years, part of it is as they leave 7th grade, they go on to 8th grade, they're no longer part of that 3-year cohort.
Okay.
Or, but even just, they were with us for 2 years, but they weren't with us for that 3rd year, so that removes them from that 3-year cohort. So again, we tested 1,400 students, but when we look at the number of students that have been with us for 3 years or more, that number goes down to less than 900. Okay, next slide. Now we're moving into the PSAT and SAT, so we're getting into the 8th graders at the middle school as well as the 11th grade students. This is not something that I can give a whole lot of across the grade level comparisons because the state mandates that we take it at PSAT at 8th grade, SAT and 11th grade, so we don't have across grade level data necessarily to look at here. I will still do that 3-year cohort as we get to it, but I want to lift here. Middle school and high school teachers have cited that students don't have quick and accurate recall of basic facts. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Going back to our report that Dr. Krantz gave us after the listening circles were done throughout the district, one recommendation that she lifted was that the elementary teachers provide opportunity for students to use the math games that are part of the everyday math resource that we use. Those math games are research-based to support students' learning of those facts so that they can recall them quickly and accurately. And then looking at our PSAT math demographic groups, again, PSAT starts in 8th grade, so we don't have that comparison data to look at, but we do have a demographic breakdown to look at again. And I'm going to speak more in a few minutes to English language learners and Hispanic students and the difference between the two, but how the English language learner population does affect the Hispanic population. And then the SAT math demographics. And then going back to MSTEP, but now we're looking at ELA. So again, grades 3 through 7, ELA. I want to stop here and talk a little bit about the impact of ITA having its own building code moving forward. Up to the spring of 2025, I have always presented the data as ITA and ILA as standalone schools because that's how we're looking at the effectiveness of what's happening in each school and what schools need support. But the data from those students goes back to their neighborhood schools for accountability. So, and here's where I'm going to talk into some of that demographic data as well. ILA is now being combined with ITA, and they have one building. They are now one building, and they have a building code. So in the spring of 2026, we're going to see it reported that way by the state. The state has never identified ITA or ILA. 83% of the students tested at ILA were Hispanic students, and a portion of those students were English language learners. The ILA students, 77% of students at ILA were a WIDA level of 1 or 2. (83% of the English language learners at ITA, and ITA has 49% of their students tested being Hispanic. 83% of those English language learner students are a WIDA level 3 or 4. When ITA and ILA are reported together next year, we're looking to see somewhere between that 31 and 13% because we know we now have WIDA level 1 and 2 and level 3 and 4. We have the full. And again, that's again why ITA was identified for additional ESL teachers, knowing that we have that large population from ILA as well as they already had their own population. So we hope to see towards the higher end of that 31, given that support of the ESL teachers put in place, but I wanted to lift that. Additionally, ITA has a higher percentage of Hispanic students who are proficient in ELA. So 30% of the Hispanic students are proficient in ELA in 6th and 7th grade at ITA. So just think about 6th and 7th grade right now. 30% of those 6th and 7th graders at ITA are proficient in ELA. 4% of those Hispanic students in grades 6 and 7 at Pontiac Middle School are proficient. Again, the WIDA level 3 and 4 are at ITA. The newcomer, WIDA level 1 and 2, are at Pontiac Middle School, and that same impact goes to Pontiac High School. So I've talked a lot about Pontiac Middle School and Pontiac High School because that is where we're going to see the greatest impact next year when 2026 scores come out. And I'm just making sure everybody's aware that's the reality that we're looking at and where we know that moving forward. But the elementary students also go back to Alcott, Harrington, Whitman, Owen Rogers. That will also impact those schools as well. Looking at MSTEP ELA by grade. Again, looking at those dark purple bars. In 3rd grade, we're at 12%. When we look at the 4th grade gray bar, we're at 13%. The 2024 4th grade dark purple bar, 10%. The 5th grade bar, 13%. So we're seeing those increases. Again, 5th grade, the middle bar, dark purple, 16%. The gray bar as 6th graders drop to 12%. Again, we see that drop as students move from elementary to middle school. And then 6th grade, we were at 12% in 2024 as 7th graders. They're at 10% in 2025. So some drop there too. And I will lift that 7th grade classroom did not have a certified teacher for the full year last year.
Is there any correlation? I'm sorry.
No,
Question.
go ahead.
Is there any correlation between the 5th grade going to the 6th grade regarding the curriculum? Is the material that much different?
For math, they are 2 different curriculums. There's everyday math for K-5, and if there's anybody in middle school out there that can remind me what the middle school math curriculum is, Envision, yes. So for math it is. For ELA, Wit and Wisdom was adopted first K through 5 and then brought into 6th grade as well. So there is consistency in the curriculum resource for ELA.
Are we looking at changing that to get some more consistency across the board?
So we're in the process right now of reviewing and making some adoptions, and as it relates to the adoption, you have to do piloting, and there's a process that you have to do. You can't just say, we're gonna use this curriculum and purchase it because it's the same curriculum. We have to pilot it and then make a decision from there.
Are we piloting that this year or?
Yes.
Trustee Gross.
Now, Ms. Dean, if I recall, let's be transparent here. This time last year, one of the things we discussed was when our students or when they start falling behind. You indicated, and you stated, quote unquote, that we see a discrepancy with children's, with them learning. From 5th to 6th grade was an issue when the kids were falling behind. Now we're right back to next year with the same thing. Right? You did tell us last year that was your issue. You told us your concern was when kids start falling behind academically is between the 5th and the 6th grade a year ago. And you're not, and here's what I'm saying. And listen, I'm not trying to shoot the messenger. And I'm saying this, and I don't want to sound like negative gross, but I really didn't want to sit through this again because it's the same old, same old. And the questions that I raised 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, what can we do differently to receive different results? And this is going to go with the next agenda item with these materials, because I am getting very, I want to be professional with this. I'm getting very disappointed, frustrated with us always approving certain things. We don't get any type of feedback on how they're working, if they're working, what is it doing to improve proficiency? And you come to us again this year with the same numbers. I state over and over and over again. Our job is to provide the best education we can for our students. The board's role is that the superintendent comes to us with various ideas, programmings to improve our kids' proficiency. We make that decision and we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and we're getting the same result.
One of the things that I do want to lift into the room is, and it has been ongoing. So I agree, it's very frustrating for everyone, especially when you consider year after year, the challenges of the difference in teacher salary. We do offer a stipend. It's $2,500. Other districts may offer $5,000. So that becomes a challenge when we're fighting to get highly qualified teachers. If you have a sub in a position, as Jennifer Dean has said, a substitute teacher does not have the same qualifications, skill set, longevity, credentials that a classroom teacher has. That sub would have to come into this district, if we're talking about Envision Math, and have a huge learning curve for a math curriculum such as Envision. I've worked with Envision Math previously. I know what the content is. I know what the reach it is. A highly qualified research-based curriculum. We have to be careful when we start saying it's the curriculum, it's the curriculum. I think that we've made good financial decisions as it relates to the curriculum, but there are other factors and barriers that impede our way in terms of moving the needle the way that we want it to be moved as a district. The other thing.
Dr. Ledford, if I may, I mean, you cut me off, so I apologize for cutting you off. But if I may, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Well, you've been saying this for the last 2-3 years. So what's plan B, C, and D?
So
hold on now. We know we have substitute teachers. We know we're going to have substitute teachers. We know this. We know this. We know this. So if we know this, what is our planning? It's been going on too long. So you told me this last year. You told me this the year before that. And you've not given me the plan B, C, and D because we know we don't have certified teachers. We know the country is in trouble with this. So am I, as a board member, and I'm not speaking for the rest of my board members, but am I, as a board member, to continue to accept this low functioning proficiency of our students because of the same reasons we've been having every year? That's frustrating. So if we know we're going to have this, why don't we create some sort of different type of plan and do something differently to show some improvement? That's all I'm asking. You told me this last year and you told me this the year before. So what can we do differently? Now, what is your plan B, C, and D? Because we know we have subs. What are we going to do now? Because I can't continue to accept what I'm receiving.
So in response to that, Trustee Gross, and if I cut you off, I do apologize because that was not my intention to cut you off. But we have to stay the course. These are tough times. People are tired of hearing it. We're all frustrated, but we still have to show up for children. We have performance management system in place. We have the interventionists in place, and we still have to make sure that we're showing up, providing the best quality instruction that we have. One of the things that I believe that also poses a challenge, and it is our reality, is the fact that is the curriculum being implemented with fidelity? So that's where we've instituted the performance management system and the walkthroughs, checking and inspecting what we want those outcomes to be. So it is a collective responsibility as we partner with the teachers. We have the data meetings. We're constantly talking about this cohort of students and what we can do to pivot and move forward. But I think that we need to, again, I will say that, be careful about the saying or overhaul of the curriculum, because these are universal research-based best practices, and we are not getting the outcomes that we want, but there are a number of things. Last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we're still telling this story and we're all very frustrated. But again, we have to collectively, as a team, come up with a plan. So I'm committed to continue to have the tough conversations, to continue to look at what we can do collectively together, because we're all responsible for moving the needle for academic achievement.
Before you
Can
go,
I
I'm
add-
sorry,
oh.
Dr. Deverson, before you go, Trustee Miller.
Yes, thank you so much, President Hannah. I understand what you're saying, Dr. Leverett, but according to Ms. Dean, you made my heart excited when you referenced Dr. Krantz' report, because I read it in its entirety. And we paid her, and she gave us a very extensive and detailed report. Much of it was based on our curriculum. So it is our curriculum, according to the consultant that we hired to review our curriculum. And I understand that we've been having the same frustrations for the past 5-10 years. And if we've been having those conversations, according to my analyzation of the report, we are 5 and 10 years behind the rest of the district or surrounding district in this ISD. My concern is, at minimum, we paid somebody that gave us a thorough explanation, even had suggestions of what we needed to do so that our students will learn and retain. Why are we not utilizing that data and those recommendations? Because what we're doing now is not working. The data supports that, at least since 2023, it's not working. So we paid for this consultant. Why are we not, at minimum, trying to do something different or start to engage in the conversations to implement at least one thing that the consultant provided us? Is it unrealistic to expect that if we paid for a service, that we utilize that service? We don't have to figure it out. According to the data and the statistics, we are behind. We are not educating our kids in the capacity that they're retaining, and they can be the equals to even people who live across the street from them, right across the road in Waterford or surrounding neighborhoods. We are doing our kids a disservice. And I understand about our educators. I'm not an educator, but I looked at the data and I'm just gonna leave it at that. I firmly believe that our educators, staff, whomever touch our students are here because most of them genuinely care about our kids. What are we doing to give them the resources so that they can teach our kids? Read the report. It said where we were insufficient, where we were not doing. That lady was here for months. Dr. Krantz was here for months. So this is not my word. This is not a personal opinion. This is data and facts. We have to change something immediately. It's time out for talking.
Trustee Dooley.
I wanted to just make a suggestion pretty much. So when you're developing professional development for the teachers, it probably would behoove us to teach them how the delivery of instruction is directly correlated to learning. In addition to that, we know we're having subs. Let's carve out some time for those subs to be trained in pedagogical implementation. Which brings me to my final point, that I remain in a quandary how principals, because they did not evaluate 121 teachers, and we are a failing district. I would like to think moving forward that will never be allowed again. Because it's no way a person can claim, you can be a good teacher, but in this climate, educational climate that we're dealing with, it's no way you cannot evaluate them because our kids are not learning. The data clearly states, and it has been that way based on what you guys presented, 23, 24, 25. I retired in 21. We were starting to be on the decline then. So now, as one of my trustees stated, you have not put in constraints in place to catch the learning. So I would like to just suggest, and I'm gonna go one step further, to say we need to realign the salaries at the top so we can give our teachers more money, so we can get some teachers in here that would love to be a part of this district. So the money, let's look at realigning the top heaviness, because I'm gonna say this, when it's brought up that you did comparative data to how we should pay our superintendent, you did not compare the right data. You have to look at how many students and professionals that are under the supervisory of the superintendent. That's how you reach. And that's based on going to CUBE, the urban district conference you guys sent me to, along with my colleagues. That was brought up. You must deal with the number of students and your staff that you're dealing with. That's how you do a comparable. It's not because we're by Southfield, Troy, Avondale. That's not how. So we have less than, I keep wanting to say 5,000, but it's 4,000.
We're 4,500. We're 4,500 students.
4,500, I go with, it's still under 5,000 students. So we need to relook at these salaries and readjust them so some of that money can be funneled into hiring teachers and giving teachers the raises that they deserve. And it can even trickle down to the bus drivers and the other vital persons in the kitchen.
Get back to the agenda item.
I'm sorry, I just had to say that because it all entails, it encompasses what's best for our students, and that is learning. So again, my suggestion would be to take those long-term subs that you've had for 5 or 6 years. Let's make sure they get into a program. Let's get partnerships with some colleges that will come in and teach those persons so they can get their degree and teach and have the background for delivering instruction. I yield the floor.
Dr. Devison, you were going to say something. Was there any other comments before we have them continue? Dr. Devison.
So I just wanted to add that we are utilizing, we are working on utilizing a program evaluation tool. So the curriculum and instruction has been looking at 3 different models to do a program evaluation. So we are working on getting a program evaluation tool.
Thank you. Ms. Dane, if you can continue, please.
Yes, so part of my talking points for this slide, before the questions came up, Dr. Krantz also reported that we look at a new ELA program to replace Wit and Wisdom, if possible. With the current state of education, a new ELA resource adoption is a large fiscal undertaking. Additionally, it will take 3 to 5 years to implement a new resource and see growth. In that time in between, there will be more decreases before we see growth. We are just now at the 5th year of implementation in Wit and Wisdom for the K-5 group. And I also want to remind everybody that that was implemented in the fall of 2020 when teachers and students were both at home due to the COVID lockdown. Before we throw this out completely, that program evaluation needs to happen, and we really need to dig deep and look at what we are doing. And I'm going to say this again in the end, but I'll say it now. All of the adults that are the stakeholders here need to come together and look at what we have and how we can use what we have without taking on another huge fiscal responsibility and make it work for our students. All of the time I spent building the story of our students was to come to this statement. So there's that. Moving on to PSAT, ELA, and SAT, ELA by school and grade. Oh, I'm sorry. The demographic groups? I think my notes got a little out of order here. Yep, the MSTEP ELA demographic groups, okay. We were on the 3-year cohort data, okay, the demographic groups, okay. Again, that same narrative that I gave around the math with the demographic groups, we apply here as we look at our ELL students and how they apply to that Hispanic population as well. We do see that decrease in the Hispanic population, but we also know that we had a big influx of newcomers coming into the district over the last couple of years. Next slide, please. MSTEP 3-year cohort data. Okay, same story as we had with math when we looked at this data. The top box is looking at all students that were tested. The bottom box is looking at students that have been with us for 3 consecutive years. We do see an increase in the district 3-year cohort group of 2%. 3rd grade sees 1%, 4th grade sees 1%, 5th grade sees 2%, 6th grade no increase, and 7th grade 4%. Again, not the type of narrative that we would hope to be able to give around students that have been with us for 3 years. Again, we need to look at our programs and truly evaluate what's working and what's not, and make decisions moving forward about what we will keep and not keep. And then the PSAT, SAT, ELA by school and grade. This again paints that picture of what 2026 is going to look like, because we've got the district right now at the 28% for grade 8, ITA at 58% for grade 8, and Pontiac Middle School at 18%. Also, when we look at numbers, we're looking at about 60 students at ITA, as opposed to the Pontiac Middle School, around 170 students. So a lot more students at Pontiac Middle School, and the same pattern moving forward with the 11th grade SAT test. SAT, ELA demographic groups, again, we don't have grade levels to compare, we just had, and again, it's a totally different group of students every year, but these, through the 3-year history, is what we're looking at with our demographics. And the SAT, ELA demographics. And then going into our PSAT 8 and SAT 3-year cohort data. So this top box is all PSAT 8, the orange being math. 243 total students were tested, 5% were proficient. 144 of those 243 have been with us for 3 consecutive years, and 8% of those students are proficient. For ELA, 243 students were tested altogether, whether they've been with us 3 months or 5 years, 243 students, 28% proficient. When we look at the 144 students that have been with us for 3 consecutive years, we see an increase of 7%. Moving down to SAT for math, whether we're looking at all students or the 3-year cohort, we are looking at 1% of students being proficient. And for ELA, we're looking at all students tested 24% proficient, and an increase to 29% when we look at the 3-year cohort. We have work to do with the curriculum at the high school. That was also identified in Dr. Krantz' report, and we are following that and we are listening to it. Dr. Devison has scheduled weekly meetings for the Pontiac High School administration and the curriculum and instruction department to meet at the high school and have dialogue around what they need, what they have, what they don't have, and what we need to change and plan for the future at Pontiac High School. We also offer CTE tracks for our high school students, and Dr. Leverett has committed a focus to getting our students on that track. We have the computer programming, the early childhood, engineering technology, JROTC, protective services with the OCC Fire Academy, aviation. You know what all the programs are, but I'm saying to the students, if we have any students or parents listening, if there is a student that is not on this track that wants to be, talk to your counselors. We have room in our CTE classes. We need to make those schedules work for those students. And as I close, I want to lift that our data clearly shows that we need something different to influence positive change. While the state of education faces many unknowns, we as adults can come together, look at our current curriculum resources, our current systems, and our current structures to determine how they can be utilized to create equity and to set all students up for success. Any further questions?
Trustee Miller.
Ms. Dean, thank you for putting up with the lashings. It's not directed towards you.
I know, I put the data on the table and I don't climb up there with it.
I know.
I deliver the data, I don't create, I analyze the data and I bring it to you. I
But
offer suggestions.
I appreciate you, and I do have a question.
Okay.
What would be your recommendation for curriculum that we can implement immediately? Because I know statistically, if we don't put anything in place prior to a student gets to the 8th grade, they probably won't graduate from high school. That's statistically what the data says. So ideally, our focus should be K through 7. What will be your recommendation? Because we both read Dr. Cran's report. What will be your recommendation? That's something we can implement. Where would you recommend that we start?
So I can actually speak to that and plans that are in place for professional development to support that. Cited in that report was teachers feeling that there wasn't enough time for small group instruction and delivering interventions, not just delivering interventions, but providing time for students to have that independent reading time. There was also a misconception about I-ready having to be done for 45 minutes in each content area, which takes away from small group time, but honestly, that should be supporting small group time. While that teacher is working with a small group of students, those students that aren't sitting in front of the teacher could be completing that. So clearing up some misconceptions, but also providing more training about how we look at our data and how we plan for small groups, and reinforcing schedules that have been put out with pacing guides that were set up to allow for daily small group instruction. So reading in that report that there's not time for small group instruction, when I know the core content area supervisors and the coaches have set out pacing guides, have set out timing to include small group time, we need to talk to the teachers and find out what is not working with that still and what further changes need to be made. So again, evaluate what we currently have and see how we can make it work better for our students.
Thank you, Ms. Dean.
You're welcome.
VP Bowman.
As far as our current curriculum and what we have and to evaluate, a part of this, is there something where our children can be a little more engaged, hands-on, not just specifically sitting at a desk with a book, but different ways to learn, not the same way sitting at a desk? Do we have things in place for potential avenues for our children to learn differently? Is any of that coming through the pipeline?
So a lot of our resources do provide that. We aren't seeing it implemented as much. So again, further support that's needed on how to make that successful in the classroom. I will also say, and this is a much longer process because this doesn't happen overnight, but we have started training teachers on the project-based learning that gives teachers more autonomy on the design of their lesson and is designed to be hands-on and engage the students in more critical thinking. But again, that is not an overnight process. That is, I can't say that's happening across the district. We started with ITA and the plan is to continue adding, whether we add by grade level or school, but adding on year by year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Gross.
Thank you.
During this last visit that we made out in LA, we had the opportunity to visit Compton schools.
I'm sorry, what school?
Compton,
Okay.
middle and high. Considered one of the worst areas in the United States, but they have a 98% graduation rate in high school. One of the things that I specifically did was talk to the teachers as it pertains to how they're teaching their children. And one of the programs that they use, they had the students with pens and paper and writing, but they also use virtual in the classroom with them, with the goggles and the things. It was a math class. So when they finished, I asked a few of the students, what is it about this class that you like? They used 2 words. It's fun. It's fun. We have to meet the children where they are to get them to where we want them to be. And they're utilizing programs that meet the children where they are. They have 6th graders who are creating the when you strap on your on your ankle. 6th graders through computer learning. They meet the children where they are. And I've been pushing for our kids. We need to start doing things that are fun. I had a conversation with the superintendent. 2 of the things that I know for a fact that are fun for the students in this district, our children, is athletics and CTE. People say, oh, but sports. No, athletics and CTE gets the kids here. Now, once you get them here, you can teach them. And why is it that athletics and CTE the children like? Because it's fun. I can count on one hand from kindergarten through my 12th grade year how many days I missed in school. Because it was fun. The teachers made it fun. The academics was fun. The sports was fun. It kept that interest here. And I wanted to go to school and I didn't want to miss. I'm not seeing that here. When are we gonna start taking a look at things and wake up? These are the children that we have. Meet our children where they are. Survey our kids and ask them, what is it that you like about school? What would you change? What do you want to see different? When are we going to do that? Because, and I'm going to stop ranting, but I say this every meeting. Without students, everybody in this room wouldn't have a job. We tend to forget that because we're on this adult high horse. They're going to do what we want them to do. You don't act up in my classroom. Teacher, that's not your classroom. It's a classroom with students. You're just a teacher of that classroom. But when you have that mentality and make our children the second or third or fourth choice, right? Then we lose. Meet the kids where they are. If you have a curriculum that it appears that every year, since I've been here since 2020, it ain't working, we're not meeting them where they are. Give them something that they understand and build from that. That's what Compton did. It ain't about the money. You're about to bring me an item on here. What I read is $408,000 for materials that we don't even know gonna work, that I'm voting no on. When are we gonna wake up and see? We know what we have here. We have 4,500 students. We had over 200 and some odd students come back because last year it was at 4,275. And why? Make school fun. Come on, everybody, wake up. Make school fun. Make school fun. Get them here in the seats because I had a principal tell me when I was a kid, you can't teach an empty chair. Come on. It ain't that hard.
Trustee Miller.
Thank you, President Hannah. In addition to what Trustee Gross said, last board meeting, I believe, Mr. Upton came and presented about how he sent home these projects. And so, like what Trustee Gross was saying about making it fun or meeting the students where they're at. The important part of it is that they're gaining the concepts. However they get to the solution, it don't matter if they use a pen and paper, if they put together a project like Mr. Upton said that he sent his students home with, as long as they're gaining the concepts and can retain it. And we can also utilize, like you said, CTE. If you're not a big math student, why not consider introducing CTE in the middle school level? Because once again, data says if you don't implement at-risk students before 8th grade, they won't graduate. So why don't we introduce those so they'll still gain those those math concepts if they're struggling with math, but they're going to do it in a way that makes sense to them. We can't do what makes sense for us. We need to do what makes sense for our students.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have one. I would just like to say, please don't take this like a bashing type of thing. We're just trying to offer solutions. And one of the solutions I would like to, having been a former teacher in the classroom, so I know what I'm talking about, let's be clear. Let's stop having the teachers where they're so caught up in delivering the curriculum, so they're not teaching and they're not doing total foundational skills, because many of the teachers can do an assessment just on how a kid will respond to them. That you can do several types of assessment. So one of the things I would suggest is that as you look at those pacing guides, that what needs to be covered, that they have the autonomy not to move on if at least 75% of their students have not grasped the skills. Because what we see here is the repetitiveness of passing kids socially. We pass them on, and then ironically at 12th grade, this kid can't read. We're not talking about fluency, calling words, reading for the comprehension. So that's one big area I would say, if we could remove just a little barrier and then be a little more vigilant in what they are doing actually. So that means principals have to be up and walk in that building all the time. And also principals probably need to get a little training themselves so they'll be able to go into the classroom and help, or they can just stand at the door and know what good instruction is. So I would just like to say, if we could kind of cut that pacing guide and they're given some wiggle room until the kids get the skill, they're not going to continue.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. Dean, you have something else to say? Go ahead.
Part of what's got us to the point that we're at when we look at kindergarten, first grade, second grade, we hold back too much and we don't teach all the standards to the level that they need to be taught. And we assume, oh, they'll get it in first grade. Then no, they're not going to get kindergarten standards in first grade. They're not going to get second grade standards in third grade. So our curriculum supervisors have done that work in pacing, have worked with the coaches, have talked to teachers, and we will continue those conversations to see how we can support the students without going too quickly, but going quickly enough to make sure we get it all in. If we don't get it all in kindergarten, they go to first grade with gaps that don't get completed.
Exactly.
They go to second grade gaps that don't get, they continue to move on with gaps that don't get completed. So we can't cut down. We have looked at where we can cut down and where we can slow down. We have to instead, and there are many places that this is provided where we can look at, okay, this is coming up, what I'm going to teach. This is what the students need to know in order to learn this. And if they don't know this, these are things that I can do in my small group to work with them to get them ready for what I'm coming up to. So I hear what you're saying, that how do we go on when 75% of the students still aren't getting it? But if we don't go on, we continue creating a bigger gap. And that's where we have to come together, teachers and administration, and listen to each other and figure out what is best for our students.
So Jennifer, I appreciate that. Let's look at backward design. Let's look at backward design curriculum to help
Which is,
facilitate
yes,
this gap.
looking at what students need to know
Where we-
before I teach it.
Let's
Yes.
do that, and possibly I gotta get you the guys' dates when you meet, so I can come and try to give some suggestions as I listen to your plans to do my due diligence, having been in the classroom, retired 30.5 years.
Thank you. We're gonna move on. I appreciate the presentation, and we knew it was going to be lengthy, but I think it was worth it. Next, Dr. Leverett, we have on the agenda, was there another? No. Next on the agenda is our 2025-2026 Leadership Academy.
Yes, Dr. Devison, this is just a report on our Leadership Academy 2025 curriculum and instruction. Would like to present our Leadership Academy.
Good afternoon, or good evening, actually. I'm waiting on Cynthia. And so we have the Leadership Academy, which we started last year. And so if you can go to the next slide. The purpose of the Leadership Academy is to build leaders within our district and to also collaborate with leaders, also to build the leadership team by providing professional development, addressing challenges, building relationships, and giving them the skill set to be leaders, and also ultimately to maintain the blueprint principles, which will assist with making sure that we're being collaborative around curriculum and instruction. Next slide, please. So you have a content which talks about what's in the Leadership Academy. Next slide. So of course, we have our board of directors who governs the district. And then we have the organizational chart, which just talks about the superintendent. She reports to the board. And then we have the executive assistants, which are all of us, and just kind of gives you an organizational chart. Next slide. And so we gave a building directory and also departments. Next slide. And then what services we offer. Next slide. So then these are the departments under the curriculum and instruction and also within our district. So we have athletics, the bilingual department, business services, curriculum and instruction. Next slide. CTE, energy and technology, facilities, food service, and grants. Human resources, marketing and communication, Project Excel, and then security. Special services, student services, and then the Office of Superintendent. So what we do in the Leadership Academy, we try to make sure that we put all documents in one central location so that people won't have to search for it as it relates to leaders within our district. So we have the Article 14. We also have the payroll information. We have the volunteer registration form. So if you're new in our district, we try to have all of the documents in one central location. So if you're new in our district, if you're a guest principal, you have this information at your hand. Next slide. So of course, we're doing the blueprint model, and we're encouraging all of our staff to understand the blueprint model. We're doing the blueprint model from where it came from, and we're working our way through all of the different drivers. Next slide. So we have guest principals just in case we have someone that may be out for long term, so that the building is just not empty without a person to relieve. We've had a number of challenges where maybe someone, family member might have passed, or that person might be ill, so that the building just doesn't go empty. It has someone to be able to assist. And please note, we vet these people. We make sure that they have the competencies. In addition to the guest principals, we train them in our blueprint model. We train them in our Principals Institute. We also at times allow them to come to the principal workshops, but we try to vet them. We try to give them all the knowledge that we have in the building so that they will be prepared to start the school year, or wherever the gap is needed. We try to fill with these people. These are retired principals from other districts that have shown some success in those districts. With new principals, we give mentorship. In addition to Oakland schools have a first year and a second and third year training that we allow the new principals to go to. And in addition to that, we do mentorship within our district. So we have the central office partnerships, and with the central office partnerships, we do building walkthroughs, we do collaboration on just areas in which we need what they need. So we try to be very intentional. So for example, Alcott received a new special education room. So we tried to be very intentional to make sure that we had someone to support that person in that area. As it relates to even at ITA, we tried to be intentional by knowing that we were going to do the project-based learning. So Mr. Upton, myself, we participated in the project-based learning in addition to Dr. Alicea, but not only that, there's a high population of the ESL population. So again, we had Dr. Alicea be a part of that. Same thing with Ms. Shields. She was a new principal in special education, so the partnership was to have Dr. Jameson as the special ed director pair with that person. So all of the partnerships were intentional and making sure that we put people in best spaces. This partnership is different from what it was last year when we learned things from last year that we just needed to improve or to make a change out. So at Pontiac High School, like Jennifer Dean had made mention, there was a need for us to be in the building. So we have been going to the high school to have meetings from the curriculum standpoint, but now we have Ms. Jeter paired with the high school so that we're being, like I said, very intentional. At the middle school, there was a concern. So with the middle school, I am now paired with the middle school principal. So again, being very intentional in our central office partnership and making sure that we are doing the HQI walkthroughs. We did some non-negotiables this year, such as, making sure that they have Google Classroom, making sure that they're posting their agendas, making sure that they're putting their objectives up. So just last week, I did my partnership visit with Dr. Robinson, and all out of the 5 classes that we visited, 4 out of 5 did everything that we expected of them as it related to some of our non-negotiables. So I was very proud to see that. And the one classroom where we did not see some of those things, that gave the opportunity of the building administrator to speak to that teacher about things that we did not see. In addition to that relationship, there were things that the building administrator needed that I was able to resolve immediately. So when we go to the buildings, they give us that feedback, and the goal is that we make that change immediately so that the buildings feel that their needs are being met because they're seeing us directly.
Yes, VP Bowman.
As far as the follow-up time, so now that the corrections have been implemented, how long before you follow up again to make sure that?
So the partnership meetings are weekly.
Okay.
Yep. So we go to the different buildings weekly. We document that. We document it in our HQI walkthrough form, which we're updating our HQI walkthrough form, but we are still meeting and making sure that we make those changes. But specifically at the high school, we're doing another level. So we have these partnership visits, but not only that, we are meeting with the high school weekly for an hour and a half as a whole department to just make sure that the needs are being met for whatever they desire or things that they're asking for. And so we just met this last week and we talked about like maybe next time the MTSS coordinator did not need to come. So we have an action plan when we leave, then we come back and report to that information from that weekly meeting.
So the teacher that was on this I don't want to call it quite a corrective measure, but when you come in weekly, you all double check to make sure that this teacher is implementing those.
So the building administrator will go back and make sure that the correction. So an example of something that needed to be corrected, they did not post their objectives. So the building administrator will go back and say, please make sure you post your building objectives. Then the building administrator will make sure that they follow up with that teacher ongoing.
And that's a way, and we have a way to document or track that
Absolutely. And we do that through the HQI walkthroughs.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide. So as it relates to the district turnaround network and the build a turnaround network, we are doing performance management, and in the performance management, we have the dates here listed on when we're gonna have those performance management. So going back to some of the things that Trustee Groves and also Trustee Dooley and also Trustee Miller that you have brought up about how are we monitoring data? These are the opportunities where we're monitoring data. And so even when you think about something fun, I just want to lift that in the summer school, that was the one thing that they talked about, that there was no fun. So to your point, I heard Trustee Miller talk about Mr. Upton providing the fund. That was a collective decision that we would provide fund for summer school. So remember, we reported before that at the middle school, we offered the code 313, we offered DAPSET. So we are making those changes. We are making fun. And I just want to remind you all, and I know we don't have time, but research does say it takes 3 to 5 years to make some major changes. And to your point, we are monitoring it. Even in the, when you think about the Article 14 calendar, we are doing some early release, so we're giving time for professional learning communities during the school day so that we give teachers time to look at the data that we're presenting here. So as it relates to the leadership development, we do have aspiring principals. So what we did was we asked building administrators, are there people that you think would be ready to be a principal? So at Oakland Schools, they offer an aspiring principal training. And with those aspiring principals, these are teachers that are in the building, and then people who have obtained their masters in educational leadership. So we have a list, and they are going to Oakland Schools for the aspiring principalship. Again, Mr. Mickens and Ms. Clark Franklin, this is their second year, so they are in their mentorship. Last year, they were in the year 1, but if you notice, there's no one there because these principals have now moved to the 2 to 3 year cohort, and we always want to lift, that we are still getting people trained in MSBO certification. So this concludes the portion of the Leadership Academy.
Thank you. Any more questions, Trustee Miller?
Mine is quick. Thank you for the presentation. In the future, being that the board is not directly involved with the day-to-day, I would appreciate a report that is updated. Like there were several inaccuracies. Our former CFO is still listed under there in the org chart, and there was some other. So just so I can have the most accurate data and presentation for the Board of Education, I would just like those discrepancies to be fixed. Thank you.
And in this document, I did make the corrections, and thank you for assisting us with that.
Any other comments or questions for Dr. Debison? Okay, thank you very much. Next is our 2025-2026 school year math and science materials. Dr. Everett?
Yes, Dr. Devison, this is for the 25-26 school year math and science materials. Dr. Devison.
So again, just wanted to give some preliminaries because I do know that there is concerns about ordering the math materials. So we did have a team to go to the Fail Center and check out the items that are at the Fail Center to make sure that we were not ordering things that we already had. So there was a team that did go to the Fail Center to check the inventory, and we wanted to make sure that we were not over purchasing. What we did realize is that at the Fail Center that volume 2 was the items that were there. So this time, instead of ordering both volume 1 and 2, this time we're only ordering volume 1 because we did not want to order more volume 2s when we already had that as an opportunity. Also, we are purchasing these items because when we're talking about planning the curriculum and an adoption, we want to make sure that we have the materials that we need to complete this adoption. And we don't want staff to be teaching without the materials that they need currently. So we didn't over purchase. We made sure that we checked the inventory and that we were able to work with the vendor, because normally they don't want you to break the volumes, but they did give us an opportunity to do that this time. So I'm going to read the bear. This bear is for the 2025 school year math and science materials. The background rationale: PSD administration is looking to purchase curriculum resource materials for the 25-26 school year. For Savage Math curriculum 6 through 8, this is a digital license and consumables, and the total is $41,238. Cengage Math and Science curriculum digital license, $35,170.47. Agile Mind Math curriculum materials, digital license and consumables, $14,518. And then McGraw-Hill Math curriculum, digital license and consumables, $49,057.23, a total of $139,983.70. And the funding source, we have a portion of it, 31A grant for Agile Mind, and then the remaining would be the general fund, $425,465.70. It is the recommendation of the Board of Education to approve the 25-26 school year math and science materials in the amount of $139,983.70.
Question, VP Bowman?
Yes. So if you all just recently went to the Fail Center to make sure that we're not ordering double books, but none of the figures changed in the amounts that you just specified. So where's the cost savings, and when did we take off volume 2? Or was this preemptively done prior to this conversation? But it's still.
This was before the conversation. So we did try to be intentional by going to the Fail Center way before the conversation about there were extra things. So the math supervisor was already intentional about going to the Fail Center and getting those items inventory.
So would there be a way to see the cost? So in whatever breakdown with the cost difference with the volume 1 and 2, so we would just know the difference?
I don't have that right now, but I definitely can get that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Trustee Gross?
Why are we approving this now that school has started? Same question I asked.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Why are we approving something when school has already started? Couldn't we have gone over to the Fail Center in July, brought this to the board on July 14th board meeting, saying we need these things for school to start, so the teachers, principals will have these materials in their presence at the time school started on September 2nd or 3rd? This is the third time that I've asked this question about materials as it pertains to a timeline. Why are we approving something on September 22nd and school started 2 to 3 weeks ago?
For this particular situation, unfortunately, we did have some illnesses, and so we were behind.
One of the things that was discussed last year was that we would have someone in a position, if a certain person in that department is absent, then you have a second person to be able to do what that first person could do. Again, with the excuses and the unnecessary excuses to doing things, and then people wonder why our children are behind. We are looking at ordering material, and school has already started over 3 weeks ago. I have a problem with this, and I made it clear at the last meeting. And it appears that I'm sitting on an island and no one is listening, because 2 weeks later, you're doing the same thing. I yield.
so my question would be, Dr. Deverson, he's correct. Probably back around July meeting, I asked, did someone go and check? You agreed that there were several boxes, unopened boxes of textbooks all over, because I shared with you, I had gotten calls that said, let's look at this stuff that we have. Did you, and you said you would check that out. Did you do that? Give us a report and I missed it?
I did not personally check it. I
Did
not-
anyone do it under your staff?
They did.
So where's that
They did.
report?
I don't have the report, but they did go check and they did not do that in July.
Well, okay, so if they did that report and we didn't get a report, how do we know what materials could be used? As I stated, any good teacher can spiral up or down as needed. So I'm going to go on the record standing in agreement with my colleague. I too will vote no, because this is excessive waste, the way I see it.
Trustee Miller?
Let me give some facts. I asked in April that we get an inventory of the fail center in preparation for this school year. Because what the last thing that I want to happen is having a back and forth conversation that I had in February of 2025, advocating and having to prove that our students did not have access to online learning materials or physical books in their hand. I had to send a video from my child's district-issued tablet to prove that there were no online learning materials available for our students. So now we at this pivotal moment again. Our students have been in learning, so we hoped, for 20 days. So how have we equipped our teachers with the materials that they need if we're just now, from my understanding, ordering them 20 days into the school year? We've had these conversations. I know I asked about the fail center in April. And I also made a comment about the excessive purchasing of materials that weren't delivered to our children in February and March. This is becoming a pattern. I yield.
Dr. Davison, I do have a question for you. So help me understand. So the materials that we're asking for now, digital license and consumables. The consumables, are these additional books?
Yes,
Okay. And so you're also saying that we've already checked the Fell Center to make sure that the books that are housed there are not books that could be used for this school year. It does not contain this material that we're asking for now.
correct.
Okay. I also heard you say that the reason why we're behind in ordering these materials is because there was a staff person that had experienced some health challenges and they didn't provide this order in a timely manner, obviously, because now you're having to request it at this point, right?
Correct.
So I do understand everything my trustees are saying, but what I want to know is if we don't order this material, how do we proceed? Or how will this impact the teachers if we say that we are not approving the ordering of this material? What happens?
So the staff would not have the digital license to do the instruction for math at these levels.
So does that mean that they can't use the license that they've had from last year or the materials that they had last year? They can't use that
They
going forward?
cannot. They cannot.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to get a clear understanding of this, because if these materials or this license was so important and we knew that we needed it, did we utilize this type of programming last year?
We did.
We did? So we knew, hear what I'm saying, and I'm directing this to Dr. Leverett. If this is something that we've been doing, and you come to me at a later time and ask for something that we've been doing, and we know we needed to do it, but the reasoning, or I say excuse, is it wasn't ordered because someone was sick, and then you say to me today how important it is to have this, because if not, the teachers won't be prepared to do what they need to do. But it wasn't important 3 weeks ago to say, hey, we may need to look at this because Jenny was sick and we got to order this. But now this is of importance now? But it wasn't 3 weeks ago? It wasn't 2 months ago? I just need to get a clear understanding on what I'm doing here, because this makes no sense to me. Now, I'm going to have to vote on it because the teachers can't teach it because they won't have the materials. But you're doing it 3 weeks later when school is out, which should have been done because the process is done every year. Every year we know we got to do this. So why wasn't it researched in July? And if Jenny was sick, get somebody else on it. You know why? Because it wasn't as important then. Because whatever was important at the time, what you guys were doing was more important to get this information to the board to approve. That's my one board member's feelings. We are failing our children because of adult stuff. This has got to stop. Because now my kids are losing out on 3 weeks of material that they should have had because somebody didn't go in because Jenny was sick. Does that make sense? I'm just asking this board, does that make sense? I'm not trying to put on a show. I love my children. Now you coming to me saying, this is important, we got to vote on it, because if they don't, and Madam Chair, you stated, if we don't get this done, what will happen? And now it's important we have to, but it wasn't important 3 weeks ago. It wasn't important 2 months ago. It wasn't important last year, because we know we do this process every year. When are we going to stop?
My question is just what have the students been doing from the start of school? What are they using? Or has the license not expired and you need to extend it? And then this is not personal as you as a person, but it is directed at the position that you hold.
So I will say that,
I'm not finished.
oh, I'm sorry.
Everything goes back to you as being curriculum, and then we're gonna hold her feet to the fire too, because she's our one employee. Everybody falls under her. And her is, I'm sorry, being disrespectful, that was not disrespectful. Superintendent Leverett, not her, Superintendent Leverett. So when we look at these kinds of things, and Jenny was sick, and hopefully Jenny's well now, but it falls, I mean, Jenny, whoever, it doesn't matter. Karen, I'm just saying, Dr. Deverson, it's your responsibility to have facilitated, to ensure. And then the next level goes to Superintendent Leverett. And you've been around the district for a few years now, quite a few, to kind of know. And you're in administrative. Do you understand what I'm trying to get at? Like, it's no logical justification for our kids to be without. It's not. You wanted, and you came to us because you wanted materials for summer school. At that point, we should have been preparing for the start of school. So moving forward, we need to become proactive and not reactive, because what that says for me is the due diligence has not been done, and it'll place me in an opposition. I still say the materials that you agreed exist can be pulled, and with our fun teachers such as my Christian brother right there, my science, and others in the audience that teach, they can take this materials that we already have and utilize it. Especially Representative Carter gave us the big picture that we may not receive the monies. So we need to curtail our spending and save what we can to ensure that our children, our students of this district, get the best possible education. I yield the floor.
All right, Trustee Miller.
Yep, thank you very much, President Hannah. I'm gonna remind everybody in this room that I'm a parent, a very active parent in my student's life that goes to Pontiac High School. What y'all present to us versus what is going on, and I can't speak for all schools, but at Pontiac High School, it's not accurate. So I'm calling for some accountability immediately. And it's not our teachers' fault, it's not our students' fault.
What y'all stand up here and present to us, I can guarantee you and show you proof. Like I sent you that video on my son's tablet. It said they don't have no online books. You said they do. I said, no, they don't. Y'all continue to sit up here to this board and misrepresent what's going on in this district. And I'm speaking as a parent, and I know that to be fact. I yield.
VP Bowman.
I know this has already been a long meeting, but in the event that this doesn't pass, then what are we doing? Because whatever we've been doing, so what, I'm talking about this past, how long we've been in school?
20 days.
20 days.
To be exact.
So the instruction that we're being asked to vote on this evening, so what's been happening this past 20 days? What have these students been doing in regards to math and science? Because these are the materials being asked of us to approve. So what have we been doing in the dips, checks, and I'm just trying to get an idea.
So specifically, I was under the impression, because when I looked, there was online available. So if trustee Miller is saying that it's not, when I looked, it was available. The vendor was able to, they indicated that they would allow us to have it until we did pay. So I would have to fact find, but I did go over, and what I saw, it was available.
I was, when I said it wasn't available, I was talking about in March. That was, what, 6 months into the school year? That was 2023, 2024, or 24, 25 school year. That's what I was referencing. I haven't looked this year because most of our students, they just got sent the information for the parents to sign 20 days into the school year for Chromebooks. I don't know, from my understanding, they're not even distributed in the classrooms. So again, for 20 days, I can say my piece as a parent that's thoroughly involved, but I'm gonna leave that alone. For 20 days, what have our kids been doing? And they're already behind. I yield.
One last comment, Dr. Hall.
Yes, Trustee Gross.
I'm gonna speak my mind. I'm asking Dr. Leverett, because when we had a discussion as pertaining to the,
I can't hear you.
in the superintendent's evaluation, one of the categories was evaluating staff. And I'm asking that. I'm at one board member. I'd like to see midterm evaluations of your staff and the end of the year evaluations of your staff. So I could determine if the job is being done. Because I can no longer accept excuses that someone was sick and something didn't get done, and it affects our children. That's unacceptable to me. And I'm asking that you provide an evaluation as it pertains to the job that your staff is doing, midterm as well as the end. Now that's just, and I'm asking the board accept that. I mean, one board member can't request something for all the entire board, but I think that should be important to all of the board members sitting in this diocese. If you're willing to accept that someone was sick and didn't get done, then we need to decide what it is that we're doing as a board, because that affects our children. I yield.
All right, we're going to move forward with the action item of the approval of the 2025-2026 school year math and science materials. Can I get a motion, please?
So move.
Support.
It's been moved by Treasurer Terry and supported by VP Bowman for the approval of the 2025-2026 school year for math and science materials. Any questions or comments?
Yes. It's, again, I would never, ever punish our students or put our teachers at a deficit that they don't have the tools that they need to teach. But this is ridiculous. And being that there has been no report given, so there's no real account of what's in the field center, if it's accurate or not, I'm not with spending more money out of general fund to purchase new materials. Thank you.
I do have a comment too, as it relates to this. When we talk about the reason for the materials not being ordered or requested at a certain time, I understand that stuff happens. And two, I'm not going to say we need to punish our kids for the mistake or the lack thereof of the adults. But I also want to say, as we've heard, from the board, that we definitely have to do a better job of checks and balances. And I understand that maybe because this person that was responsible for placing this order, maybe you didn't realize that the order wasn't placed until you realized that the orders weren't placed. But nonetheless, we have to do a better job. I understand, because for us to say as if things like this don't happen, meaning people don't get sick. We know people get sick. And just as we talked about before, making sure we have backup in place when things like this happen. This is a good example of why that's necessary. So again, just reiterating why and how we need to put some things in place so that we don't have to have these type of conversations, or these type of things don't happen again. It's definitely necessary, because again, at the end of the day, it's our students that suffer. And so I just want to say that, completely understand, and we'll move forward with the vote, please.
Before
I
you
will
go,
say that when I realized that there was some challenges, I did offer assistance. So once I found out that there was some problems, I did offer some assistance.
is there a rationale, or what's the rationale for us not utilizing the materials that have been previously purchased? Because your supervisors should be competent enough to provide assistance to either spiral it up or bring it down, because that is wasteful spending if we don't utilize the supplies, the textbooks, whatever we already have. And by your own admission, you said these items exist. So what's the rationale for wanting to continue to spend and we're not utilizing the materials already in our possession? I yield the floor.
Trustee Gross, will you please go ahead with the vote? Because we've
Calling for the
already
question?
said- Yes, please.
Thank you. Trustee Terry.
Yes.
VP Bowman.
Yes.
Trustee Doolin.
No.
I'm voting yes. President Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
No.
It passed 4-2.
Okay, thank you very much. Continuing down the agenda, communications, petitions, and delegations. VP Bowman?
We have two, and I believe they're coming up at the same time. Ms. Katisha Terry and Crystal Mullen. Oh, and before you all come, I apologize. Your request to address the Pontiac Board of Education is granted for 3 minutes with the commitment that your comments will be delivered with courtesy and civility. Failure to do so will result in forfeiture of your allotted time. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Leverett and President Hannah and board members.
I'll do it when you're done.
Okay. We would like to say a big thank you to the city of Pontiac. We would like to say a special thank you to the community picnics around the city of Pontiac that allowed us to share information with the community. Number 1, Isha Branner, E-Community Outreach. Number 2, Brilliant Pontiac. Number 3, Promise Zone. 4, Kennedy Center, Ms. Chauncey. Dr. Leverett, Ms. Cynthia. Human Resource Department for running our copies to administer our flyers. Pontiac Library, Ms. Marion for setting up tables at the library for us. Our community churches, all the businesses that allowed us to put flyers in their businesses. And number 9, all the schools in the district, which allowed us to help us meet our enrollment goals. We are currently enrolling students to reach our full max of enrollment. Peace Academy is part of Pontiac School District. We offer free, high-quality preschool for eligible 4-year-olds through the trusted GSRP program, serving our community for over 15 years. At Peace Academy, we believe every child deserves the best possible start. That's why our program is led by highly qualified educators and proudly holds a 5-star quality rating. One of only a few programs in Oakland County to achieve this distinction. We are now in our new home at WHRC. In words of Maddie Hatchett, a good education is a foundation for a better future.
Quería decir buenas noches. Queremos agradecer a la ciudad de Pontiac. Las actividades comunitarias nos han permitido compartir información con la comunidad. Con el apoyo de agencias comunitarias como la Biblioteca de Pontiac, iglesias comunitarias, empresas que nos permitieron publicar volantes, así como de todas las escuelas del distrito de Pontiac. Estos nos permitieron alcanzar nuestra meta de matrícula. Seguimos matriculando estudiantes para alcanzar nuestro cupo máximo. La Academia Preescolar de Peace forma parte del Distrito Escolar de Pontiac. Ofrecemos preescolar gratuita de la alta calidad para nuestros niños de 4 años que cumplan los requisitos a través del programa GSRP, que lleva más de 15 años sirviendo a nuestra comunidad. En la Academia Peace creemos que cada niño merece el mejor comienzo posible, por eso nuestro programa está dirigido por educadores alta calificados y estamos orgullosos de tener una calificación de 5 estrellas. Somos uno de los pocos programas del condado de Pontiac que logra esta distinción. La Academia de Peace Academy ahora está ubicado en el edificio de Pontiac y de WHRC. En las palabras de Matty Hatchett, una buena educación de la base para un futuro mejor. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, good presentation.
That concludes our public.
All right, now moving down the board, comments and announcements. We'll start with trustee Gross.
No, can I go first, please?
I'm good. I have no report.
No comments? Okay.
No comment or report.
Thank you.
I just want to, this was a great meeting. We had a lot of conversation and dialogue, and I'm glad that us as a district will continue to move forward. I'm a little emotional because my aunt was a district employee. She was my teacher. She was my 4th grade teacher, but she's passed on this Saturday, Dolores Pat Humphrey.
Sorry about that.
Being a product of Pontiac and having a family member as your teacher to help grow you and to sit here as a board trustee, and I'm grateful that my aunt was able to express that she was proud of me. I want us to continue to work together, and I ask that everybody just keep my family in prayer. I know that there's been a lot of loss in this community. We have to get to a place of healing because tomorrow isn't promised to any one of us. And those who have spent their lives championing Pontiac School District, I owe Pontiac my life, being born and raised here. I just hope that we can continue to move forward collectively because we have to do this together. We saw what State Rep Carter stood up here and showed us what our potential future is. The way the seats were filled for every other thing that we want to fuss and murmur about, they should be filled today. So know that we sit up here and we make the decisions to move this district forward, not out of self-preservation, but out of the love for our community. So I just ask that we be mindful on how we treat each other and just continue to push this district forward. I'm gonna step out now, but thank you all, and let's just continue to be good stewards of this district and move forward ahead. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Thank you, VP. Trustee Dooley?
Tonight's meeting was very informative. I've taken the position as board trustee very seriously, to be a voice of reason and to make sound best practices decisions that will benefit all educational stakeholders. Certainly, my trustee and the daughter, April Humphrey, has my condolences, as well as expressing condolences to Glenn McIntosh family, who I worked with at Oakland University. So I was able to get back. I had an awesome time at the Council of Urban Board of Educators. We had a conference in LA. It was filled with valuable information. One class in particular that definitely caught my attention is that it was an audit class. And as the presentation we heard from Representative Brenda Carter, it certainly supports the necessity of us to have a forensic investigative audit so we can know where we are. I had the opportunity to support Owen, their open house, Elcott's open house, as well as Walt Whitman's open house. And I have pictures I will post. Well, I'll get them to Frank to see if he'll post them on the website. And again, I agree, we all must work together in concert to reach the goal of producing students that will be productive citizens when they leave this educational institution, as well as support those teachers that are required to deliver instruction that will yield a measurable outcome. I want to thank each and every one of you, because I certainly represent all of you, but as always, I provide a special thank you to the 7,617 people that put me in this seat. Have a great evening. May God bless and keep you. That's my prayer.
Trustee Miller?
I just want to say my thoughts and prayers go out to VP Bowman and her family. I have nothing else of value to add. Have a good night.
Treasurer Terry?
I'm good. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. I do want to share my condolences with VP Bowman and her family, but I also want to share my condolences with Glenn McIntosh's family. He has been a tremendous support of this school district. He has been a tremendous support to this community, and he's definitely been a tremendous value to Oakland University. So I do want to just share my condolences again to his family and to all those that know him personally, up close and personal. It was and is a huge loss for us, but I think we can stand on the principles that Glenn himself lived by. And as we carry on his legacy, we walk in the same truth that he did, and that we continue to be an example, just as the one that he led us by. I want to say to Oakland County Parks and Recreation, again, thank you for coming. Thank you for the consideration of partnering with the school district. We look forward to further conversations, to talking about what that looks like, in addition to the partner with the city of Pontiac. A lot was said tonight. A lot of heavy information was shared tonight, but I hope everyone is taking heed to the information that State Representative Brenda Carter has shared, because the future of this school district, just as the future of other school districts across this state, across this country, is in jeopardy. And so the conversations that we had tonight, if anything happens, if the state shuts down, then none of these conversations that we've had will be of use. Because a lot of the things that are pending, this school district lies in the hand of not those that are sitting across this table, but it lies in the hand of the administration of these United States and with the legislation and those persons and parties in charge at the state capitol. So I just want everybody to understand that, again, all of these things are adult matters, adults making decisions. And at the end of the day, our students, our children, our future are the ones that will be jeopardized by the decisions that are being made. So again, I just hope everybody is taking heed to that. And yes, we all need to work together for the betterment of our community, for the betterment of our students. It's just a lot. So I just want to say thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for continuing to listen and support the Pontiac School District. And with that, I would like to ask for a motion for adjournment, please.
So move.
It's been moved by trustee Dooley and supported by treasurer Terry to adjourn the meeting. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Dooley.
Yes.
I'm voting yes. President Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And Treasurer Terry.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that passed 5-0.
Thank you. The time is now 9:45 PM. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you and have a good night.